How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for the people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
this the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because
Yeah.
I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under, if
streaming?
you're going to do it,
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah, please.
But Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum braucht er was zum Essen, bitte sehr. Es macht ihn ein Geschwätz nicht satt, das schafft kein Essen her.
Rum links, 2, 3, rum links, 2, 3, wo dein Platz genossen ist. Weil ich heim in die Arbeit einmeinst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum hat der Stiefel im Gesicht nicht gern. Er will unter sich keinen Sklaven sehen und über sich keinen Herrn.
Drum links, 2, 3, drum links, 2, 3, wo dein Platz genossen ist. Weil dich heim in die Arbeit einmeinst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein.
Rum links, 2, 3, rum links, 2, 3, wo dein Platz genossen ist. Weil dich heim in die Arbeit einmeinst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Здравствуйте, comrades. Welcome to Socialism Saturday. Socialism Saturday is when we watch the real far left, the farthest of the far left, the most dystopian of the dystopian. We are not watching Democrats, liberals, or progressives on Socialism Saturday because Democrats, liberals, and progressives are not the same as socialists. They are not the same as communists. It does not matter how many times Donald Trump says it. It does not matter how many times you hear it on Fox News. It does not matter how many times your favorite conservative influencer calls the Democrats communists. In the real world, we hinge into reality where Democrats and communists are two completely different things with two completely different belief systems. And we watch the real far left activists, the people who are doing every crazy thing in the country today. If you want to know who push critical race theory and anti-racism in schools, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who did gender ideology, queer ideology, transing the kids, drag queen story hour, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who's shouting their abortion, doing reproductive justice, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who's trying to abolish the nuclear family, guess what? It's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who's doing the anti-ICE protesting, the abolish the police organizing, the protests, the nonsense, the chaos, the lighting fires to shit, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. Literally every crazy idea that we have to deal with today has an origin point, and that is the radical revolutionary far left in America. And I have this crazy idea that if we literally just sit back and listen to what the socialists and what the communists have to say, then they're going to tell us all their plans, and they're going to tell us exactly how they're doing what they're doing, and they're going to tell us exactly what they believe in the way that they characterize it, not in the same way that some right-wing political hack characterizes it. And if we can just hinge into reality with the real far left, then we may actually be able to tackle the problem in a more cohesive way. Now, look, I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know that, according to the best, the brain trust of the conservative right, what we really should be doing is memeing on Twitter and cutting clips out of context and saying that the left hates white people when they don't, because whiteness is a reference to systemic racism and capitalism. I know that what we really should be doing is doing clickbait content on Twitter. That's what will defeat the left. Laura Logan, I think it was Laura Logan, wasn't it? I think it was Laura Logan who said on Twitter the other day, she was like, listen up, leftists, cut it out. And I was like, You're telling me that the big right-wing influencer plan for getting the left to stop the chaos is to say, listen up, you stupid kids, cut the nonsense. Oh, that's sure to fix everything. Yeah, great plan. Great plan, conservatives. Great plan. Like, what could possibly go? Yeah, like, can we give the left a stern talking to? Can we give them a stern talking to? Can we write them a strongly worded letter? Do you guys remember when Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General of the United States, she wrote the Portland Police Department a strongly worded letter saying, listen here, cut it out. And then when the University of California at Berkeley hosted a whole bunch of Antifa activists that attacked a Turning Point event, Harmeet Dillon did exactly the same thing. She wrote another sternly worded letter to the University of California, Berkeley, and said, listen here, leftists, cut it out. And it's like, it doesn't stop, and these people wonder why. Everyone wonders why the problem is still going on. It's because the conservative brain trust, their solution to the problem is to lie about what the left is doing, massively misinform their audience, use clickbait bullshit for clout on Twitter and meme, and then say, listen up, leftists, cut the nonsense. And they really think that that's going to solve the problem. Oh, wait, and they're going to debunk them, and they're going to call them hypocrites, and they're going to say, did you guys know that real communism has never been tried? Excuse me, leftists, did you know that communism has never worked? And they think that's going to solve the problem. Best of luck, conservatives. Best of luck. Average person in with a $20 super chat. I learned on Thanksgiving that my family is very left-wing. They called Hitler left-wing and fell for the Nat socialist trap. We're just as, if not more, emotional than the liberals they complain about. I was heartbroken. Yeah. Yep. I got a very inconspicuous message from a member of my family. This was like a couple weeks ago. It wasn't on Thanksgiving, but it kind of reminds me of it. Apparently, there's a part of my family that seems to think I've committed some grave, irreparable sin against them, but they won't tell me what I did. So I'm just like, there's now a mystery in my family where I've done something wrong, and apparently I've done something deeply offensive, but none of them will actually tell me what I did or what they're upset about. And so I'm kind of like, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what you want me to do. Like, what the fuck did I say? Like, what? Like, I don't even talk about. I shouldn't even get into it. But it's just like, I don't even know. Yeah, words. Ouch. Exactly. These are the worlds. I've committed a mystery sin against half of my family, and I have no idea what it is. I'm like, okay, well, you guys tell me if you feel like it, and maybe there can be some resolution to this, but if you won't tell me what I did, it's like, well, I say a lot of things on the internet. Do you want to point me to the, like, there, you know what you did? I mean, really? Have you ever seen my Twitter feed? Yeah. I don't even know. I don't. Okay, whatever. Hey, average person points out, and I've actually been appreciative of this. Karlyn being sick means she'll have near zero tolerance today. Yeah, that's true. Listen, I love my husband. My husband takes very good care of me. I love him. My husband brought home some sort of bubonic viral plague. And I gotta tell you, I knew it was trouble. I knew it was trouble when my husband came home the day before Thanksgiving, and he was like, Karlyn, I am fucking sick, because my husband never gets sick. I've been married to the man for 14 years. He never gets sick. And he was like, I'm sick, and this sucks. And he was complaining, and he was whining, and he was talking about his body hurting and all this stuff. And I was like, oh no, like, I'm gonna get it. The plague is coming my way. And sure enough, I woke up on Thanksgiving and I was like, I do not feel well at all. But I still cooked Thanksgiving. I still did it. And then I went right back to sleep after I cooked Thanksgiving. And it was actually probably the best Thanksgiving I've ever cooked, to be honest. Like, the stuffing was like on point this year. I used a new stuffing recipe, and it was just like, really, like, I nailed it. That's the stuffing recipe from here on forward. But I woke up the day after Thanksgiving, Friday, yesterday. Guys, I could not even function. I was completely non-functional yesterday. I couldn't even get out of bed. I didn't even get out of bed until 5 p.m. That's how bad it was. And then even today, I woke up and I was like, I don't know if I can do the show today. I was like, I don't know if I have it in me. James, thank you for the super chat. Get well soon. I too shared what I learned here with my family. I was surprised the youngest grasped it better than the older folks. There's hope yet. Maybe. So, to be honest, I woke up today and I was still feeling like shit. I was in bed until like 3 o'clock this afternoon. I was in bed until a couple hours ago. And then I know, Trendlin, I will try not to bring you any mystery plague. I'm working very hard on it. I still have to buy a plane ticket. I still have to figure out what day I'm actually leaving. Anyway, we'll figure that out. It'll all work itself out. We don't have to worry about it. Anyway, so I wasn't even going to do the show today. I was getting ready to cancel the show. And then I was like, Karlyn, just get your ass out of bed and just go look. Just go look what socialists have been doing and just see if there's anything that's worth watching. And then I was like, oh, man, really? So I got out of bed. I got my ass out of bed. And I saw this. How did we miss this, by the way? How did we miss this? How did we miss this stream? I feel like this is something that at least one person in my community should have picked up on. I really feel like someone should have identified this when it happened. Probably it should have been me, but I'm looking at the rest of you as well. I'm quite frankly disappointed that I didn't hear about this presentation until now. How can unions defend worker power against Trump 2.0? Excuse me, what? Excuse me, what? Hang on, I just got to set something up here. Hang on. This is like exactly what we should be watching. And apparently this was a live stream that premiered over 10 days ago now. So it's been up for a week and a half on the internet and we all slacked off, okay? We all slacked off. And I don't want any excuses about anyone being new. Because in a normal environment, maybe it was just the holidays. People were distracted. But I really feel like someone should have sent me this presentation in a normal environment and been like, Karlyn, we should probably watch this. Hey, Donnie girl, thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. How can the unions defend worker power against Trump 2.0? And you know the reason that we really had to watch this, and Reagan's already identified this in the chat. The reason we really have to watch this is because of this guy right here, Jackson Potter. Jackson Potter of the Chicago Teachers Union. Now, this is not the first time we have interacted with Jackson. Back in May, we got Jackson on video on a May Day Strong organizing call, basically saying that they wanted to shut the city down, abolish the Constitution, and overthrow democracy. And this is a person teaching in Chicago public schools. Listen.
My name is Jackson Potter. I'm the vice president of the Chicago Teachers Union. When we show our mettle, we organize, disrupt business as usual, and we come out the gate strong on a work day. Yeah, that's right. May 1st is a work day to demonstrate just a fraction of what's possible. When we shut shit down, we know another world is possible. And we want to help everyone imagine that. Because instead of only talking about preserving a constitution that was already imperfect and eroding before our eyes, we want to imagine a better union with social economic rights, in addition to free speech and voting rights that are actually respected and ensured. We don't want unlawful search and seizure, but we also want a right to housing, a right to Medicare for all, not just Medicaid for some. Because if the 1% got its way, it'd be none for nobody except them. And we can imagine a world that's different, that has college for all, not just Pell Grants for some or for the rich only who get the access. We can demand automatic card check and neutrality instead of executive orders that have diminished the few union rights we still possess. So let's get rid of the democratic nature of the system. Let's fight the attacks to eliminate the rights we already have. And we have a good opportunity on May 1st to defend the most vulnerable. demand the greatest good for the greatest many, and not stand silently in lieu of these attacks on our union brother, who's a sheet metal worker, Kilmar Armando Obrego Garcia. It's also an attack on our immigrant sisters and brothers. We're all workers, and we're not going to let the billionaire bosses divide us.
So there you go. There you go. That was the last time we met Jackson Potter. And now, and I said Jackson Potter was a socialist back when we saw him on that May Day organizing call back in April. And now, look, Jackson Potter is presenting alongside a union member in this Brandon guy and this Diamante woman, a teachers union president. That's just great. The Baltimore Teachers Union president. What could possibly go wrong? And this is, of course, for Haymarket Books. Haymarket Books is the largest socialist book publisher in the United States. And these are the people that run the Socialism Conference and all that. So it looks like I was right. Jackson Potter is indeed a socialist. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be presenting for the largest socialist book publisher in the United States. And I just want to remind people, the unions are a massive F-off problem. The unions are a massive problem, because the unions are where a lot of this far left organizing is taking place. The unions are completely owned by the far left. They are always involved in protests. They are always involved in direct actions. They're always involved in organizing. They're the ones putting on most of these organizing calls that we infiltrate. It's almost always done by the unions. They're starting to execute on a Starbucks worker strike all over the country right now. They're trying to literally, have you guys seen some of these videos about the protest that happened yesterday on Black Friday, where basically leftist protesters were like barging into stores and stuff to try to disrupt Black Friday, because the unions are trying to bring the economy basically to a halt during the holiday season by targeting specific stores. They're targeting Starbucks, they're targeting Amazon, they're targeting, like whatever is convenient to them at any given time, I suppose. Like, they're causing all sorts of chaos, and the unions are always and forever involved in all of this. And so, like, for my money, one of the most ridiculous things that the Trump administration is ignoring, and the Republicans and the GOP are ignoring, and conservative influencers are ignoring, is the labor unions. The labor unions are going to completely fuck us all, because the labor unions are how they're going to organize their big mass general strike that they want to do in 2028. So for people who are new, the far left is planning on doing a mass general strike in 2028 on May Day, May 1st, 2028, where basically they are targeting strategic industries to include airline travel, to include auto workers, to include Starbucks, to include Amazon, to include grocery stores, to include probably some other ones that I forget off the top of my head, education, obviously. They want to have all the unions go on strike at the same time, and they're working years ahead of time to try to coordinate this so that they cripple the economy in 2028 and they completely shut down the entire economy. Now, do you guys want to know what sparked the Bolshevik Revolution in back in the day when that happened? What was that, 1919, 1917, something like that? I forget. I'm sick. Forgive me. It was this shit. It was the unions that sparked all of this shit. And so we have them on video saying this. We have them. The DSA is coordinating with the Starbucks workers, is coordinating with the SEIU, is coordinating with the UAW, is coordinating with all of them. We have them on video saying explicitly what they're going to do. I know that because Harrison Smith on InfoWars played it for everyone on his show, which he got from me. And of course, the Trump administration is doing nothing about this, and the Republican Party and conservative influencers aren't talking about it at all. One of the most impactful things that the Trump administration could do is to have congressional hearings into the political organizing activities of the unions. Okay, so maybe the Trump administration can't call for that, but guess what? Republicans in Congress can. There need to be congressional hearings into the political organizing activities of the unions. Because right now, the unions across the board are pushing far left radical organizing that is not designed to make life better for workers, by the way. It's designed to spark a revolution that is going to lead to the overthrow of the government. That is what we're talking about here. The unions don't give a flying F about making things better for workers. That is not what they're doing. What they're doing is coordinating to do far left organizing where they're involved in every major protest, every major disturbance. They're telling teachers to leave school in the middle of the day. They're telling everyone to stop working so they can cripple the economy. They're trying to do a mass general strike with the explicit goal of crippling the economy by 2028. There's probably going to be several test runs between now and then where we're going to see upstarts of these strikes because they're doing practice runs, all to practice for 2028. And no one's talking about it. And no one's doing anything about it. And so, predictably, we are at the tip of the spear with this. We know exactly what's coming. We've got our next 2.5 years just mapped out. The next 2.5 years of covering the far left is going to be more and more and more and more and more coverage about the unions, because the unions are the people driving all of this like insane shit. So, when I saw this presentation, How Can the Unions Defend Worker Power Against Trump 2.0, and I saw that Jackson Potter was involved, and I saw that the president of the Baltimore Teachers Union was involved, and I saw the director of a UAW regional branch is involved, I'm like, you know what? Get your ass out of bed, Karlyn. You can have a cold after you do Socialism Saturday. You can fall back asleep and sleep the entire day on Sunday, but get out of bed and do this Socialism Saturday so we can watch the union call. So that's what we're going to do. I'm here. I have a cup of coffee. I'm going to do the very best I can. I do appreciate all the people who have already sent in super chats. Thank you, David, for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Thank you, Nick. Your slack for your wife will punish you later. Well, you know. And just be gentle on me today. Please don't make me yell today. Can we just have like a non-yelling day? Can we do that? Can everyone just be nice to me? Just don't be a retard today. You can come back and be a retard on Monday maybe, but don't do it today. Come on. I don't ask for much. Just don't abuse me while I'm sick, okay? It's not fair. It's not fair. Guys, if you want to fund the work I'm doing and keep me completely independent because I am 100% funded by people just like you, please head over to the Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, and sign up for a membership. $8 a month, $80 a year. I will show you things that literally no one else on the internet is showing you. I will cover content that is happening on the far left that no one else is talking about. Actually, do you guys want to see this? Check this out. I just found out about this the other day. You guys are going to love this. There is a new Antifa website near me for the NyQuil. Thank you, Hans, for that. I do appreciate that. That's awesome. Little Miss, can you read my previous comment? Let me see. In Washington State, the unemployment will be paying for their strikes too. Now, oh, that's right. Actually, that's a good point. So the unions in Washington State are now being funded because they can go on strike and get paid. I did see you talking about that too, ladies. Thank you for that super chat. So the other day, I found this on Instagram the other day. I follow these people on Instagram. Do you guys remember? Thank you, OC. I do appreciate that. Do you guys remember when I went to Boston and I accidentally ran into Antifa in the middle of Boston? Do you guys remember when I was on a date with Victor and we were going to go to try to find dinner? We were walking by the Boston Common and there happened to be a queer festival happening on the Boston Common. And in the middle of that queer festival, there was an Antifa table and I got all their propaganda. And I wasn't even wearing a disguise, but I was like, we have to do this. And Victor was like walking behind me looking all confused, so he didn't know what to do. And I was just like, just stand there and make sure I don't get beat up, okay? And then I went and talked to Antifa for a little while, and they gave me all their shit. Anyway, this is the Antifa group in Boston, and this was on their Instagram the other day. Hate the government, hate capitalism, just want to see it burn down. livefree.noblogs.org, the Northeast Counter Info, local news analysis, blah, blah, blah. So There is a new Antifa website on NoBlogs. Of course, if you follow my work, you know that noblogs.org is an anarchist web hosting platform where we find a lot of really far left material. So anything on NoBlogs is going to be extremely far leftist. Check this out. You guys want to see the first post on NoBlogs that I went to when I found it? How to deflate a tire. Do you guys want to learn how to deflate a tire? We can. This is the first post. Police van. Oh, wow. So that, I mean, I know it's not rocket science to stick an ice pick into a tire, okay? It's not rocket science, Antifa. But like the fact that this is literally the first post on this website about how to use an ice pick to deflate a tire. And it says an ice pick is faster, quieter, and easier than you might think. Volume it up to here. Wear gloves. You can do this. We were scared too. We didn't know how till we tried. It's actually very basic. You don't have to be an anarchist. Just regular people sick of watching the NYPD and ICE brutalize people, watching crowds surround a vehicle, and no one is doing anything. We've seen reports of it done recently in Chicago, North Carolina, Rochester, New York. Oh, so this is what they're doing all over the place to make sure that ICE isn't kidnapping their neighbors. Imagine my shock. This is the least we can do. Scared to try in broad daylight? Try it at night. As always, take the appropriate precautions to cover yourself in your tracks, e.g., see the footprints, the shoe prints in the snow? Don't do that. Toss the shoes if you do. So, very helpful Antifa information about how to slash ICE's tires and the police's tires with an instructional video on how to do it. You guys seen this anywhere else on the internet? I bet not. I bet no one else has shown that to you. And that's what I do. I scour anarchist websites and I look for crazy shit and I show you guys all the crazy shit for anyone else. And then people like Andy No steal my work and they pretend they got there first when in fact they didn't. They just stole my work because I am light years ahead of them. And there ain't nothing they can do about it. And they whine and cry and they spread smear campaigns. Yeah, where's Andy No's reporting on this? Where's Andy No's reporting? Andy No is the master of Antifa. Why do I have this before him? Who wants to bet that Andy No will report on this at some point and that he won't credit the original source? And then we're gonna have to go brigade his replies again to be like, Andy, you are a 2-bit journalist that doesn't even live in America. So if you want to fund actual journalism and actual reporting about the far left, head over to my Substack. That is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. Sign up for a membership, $8 a month, $80 a year. You guys keep me in business and I really do appreciate it. I also want to remind everyone that the big sale in the Red Menace Supply Company on the McCarthy shirts is almost over. So I've got these 6 McCarthy designs in my merchandise store. That is redmenacesupply.com if you want to check it out. I've got other stuff in there too. But these designs are all 25% off for the rest of the month of November, which isn't very long. So if you want any of these designs on a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or like a shot glass or stickers or anything like that, now's the very best time to get them because they're going to go up to normal price in a couple days. I will be doing some Christmas specials in the merch store next week, so be on the lookout for that. But for right now, get your McCarthy stuff. And this is the design that I wore on Fox News in my most recent appearance for people who are looking for that. You got some stickers, you got some sweatshirts, you got all sorts of cool stuff. And all this purchases in the store do fund the work I'm doing. And of course, I really do appreciate it. All right. Now, who is new? 1 in the chat if you are new to Socialism Saturday. 2 in the chat if you have been watching Socialism Saturday for 1 to 3 months approximately. 3 in the chat if you're like a veteran, you've been watching for several months, you know what the definition of capitalism is, all that stuff. 1 in the chat, Trendle and shut the fuck up. 1 in the chat if you're brand new to Socialism Saturday. 2 in the chat if you've been watching maybe like, well, you know, a couple months or so. 3 in the chat if you're a veteran. I just want to get a sense of the makeup of our audience here. Bunch of 2s, bunch of 3s, couple of 1s. Michael says, is it correct to say that far-left Antifa is not a political organization? In fact, it's the opposite. Well, I don't know what you mean by it's the opposite. Antifa is a highly decentralized organization with thousands of cells all over the country. They do not usually call themselves Antifa, and they communicate through anarchist websites and other means to be able to coordinate their efforts, but they're not officially an organization in that they have no hierarchy. They are a non-hierarchical, decentralized organization. Thank you for the super chat. I hope that helps. Cool. So we got a good mix in the audience today. I want to remind all new people, please make sure you ask questions as we make our way through the presentation. Actually, before we get started, we have a couple of rules on Socialism Saturday, so I'm going to ask everyone to watch this very short informational video so that you don't break any of my rules and piss me off, okay? Get ready. Listen. All right, for anyone that's new, we have some rules for Socialism Saturday. Let me go over them real quick. Socialism Saturday is a research group and a class. We do take this seriously. You're allowed to have fun. You're allowed to have a drink or two. You're allowed to kind of kick back and joke in the chat. However, I need everyone to understand that when we are researching the radical revolutionary left, we do take this seriously. And so if you're shitposting in my chat, I'm going to tell you to stop. If you are posting off topic in the chat, I'm going to ask you to stop at some point because it's going to be distracting to what we're doing. I need you to think of yourself as in a classroom. And I'm not talking about an online classroom. I'm talking about a real life classroom, okay? When you walk into a real life classroom, I am the teacher, you are the students. You are sitting in the desk, I am sitting in the front of the classroom. I'm standing there teaching you what is going on. If you were in a real life classroom, you wouldn't walk in, start throwing shit at the wall, yelling, saying, I disagree with you because my best friend said something different. That's not allowed. I don't care about your feelings. I'm not going to coddle your opinion. And that's going to be the way it is. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. But if you are in my classroom, you will respect my rules and you will listen to me. And if you do not do that, then you will be removed. And how you feel about being removed makes no difference to me at all. The expectation is if you're going to be here and you're going to be watching socialism with us and you're going to be participating in the chat, you are doing it because you are serious about learning this topic and understanding this topic. The minute that I think that you're just fucking around or you're trolling or something like that, you're going to get put in a timeout or permanently banned, and that's just going to be the way it is. Rule number 2, don't be a dick. Do not insult me. Do not insult other people in the chat. I can do whatever I want because I am the queen fascist bitch of my YouTube channel. So I can say and do whatever I want. But if you don't insult me and you don't insult other people in the chat, we're not going to have a problem. So be an adult, rein that shit in. Number 3, no whining. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care if you feel personally attacked. It makes no difference to me at all. And I promise you, I care about your feelings a little bit more than the left does. So if you can't handle me, you can't handle the left. If you start whining and complaining because you don't like the rules or you think you're being treated unfairly, you can just leave, bro. There's the door. You don't have to be here. Number 4, listen. Our job here and why we do Socialism Saturday is to listen to what the left is saying, to listen to what real leftists are doing in the real world. This is not to support your confirmation bias. This is not to support any conservative bullshit narrative that you may have heard on Glenn Beck that one time. This is not to be what you want it to be. This is to engage with reality. We need to listen, we need to actively listen, and we need to understand the left better than they understand themselves. That is the purpose of this exercise, okay? As part of that, I do ask that people refrain from debunking. You do not have a single debunk in your arsenal about the left is stupid because of reasons X, Y, B, and Z, or the left is hypocrites for reasons X, Y, B, and Z. You don't have a single debunk that we haven't heard before, okay? And every time you put energy into debunking, that is energy that you're not putting into listening. So if I see you debunking, I'm going to tell you to stop because you need to put that energy into listening instead. Lastly, break the rules of my chat or disrespect me in any way, and I'll just kick you out, and that's the way it is. Yeah, you must be new. No, this is not satire. I am 1,000% serious about preserving the sanctity of my chat when I'm trying to do research on the internet. You're in my classroom. I'm the teacher in the class. You are the student in the class. If you don't like the hierarchy in the class, get the fuck out. And I'm deadly serious about that. I'm sick. Don't test me. 2 ladies, Antifa's all over the world. Germany had another Antifa attack in the last 48 or 24 hours, if I remember correctly. Well, that's true. There's a lot of shit going on in Germany right now. I will say that it is true that Antifa is all over the world. In many countries, it's actually worse than it is here. I focus on America, though, which is why I answered the question in the context of America. But you are correct. Antifa is international. That doesn't mean Antifa in America is funded internationally because Andy No doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. But I focus on America, so that's why we talk about that. Thank you, Dragon Lady. Thank you for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it. All right, guys. All right. Let's dig into the presentation. We are watching How Can Unions Defend Worker Power Against Trump 2.0. This is about a week and a half old. It was by Haymarket Books, which is the largest socialist book publisher in the United States. Everyone, please make sure to mount the like button if you have not already. Thank you, Dragon Lady, for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it. Guys, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you have questions as we make our way through the presentation, I do encourage you to ask them in the chat. All good faith questions will receive good faith answers. There we go. Now we can actually see the chat. All right, let's get this party started. They had a long intro. Long intro.
Community guidelines.
Who's this?
Hi all, thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Natasha Lena Yulman, and I'm a staff writer at Labor Notes. I'm joined by my co-moderator, David Dayan of the American Prospect, and our brilliant panel that I will introduce in just a moment. There is no denying that the labor movement is in a precarious moment. Trump has torn up union contracts covering 1 million federal employees, the single largest union-busting act in US history. His administration is terrorizing immigrant workers with barbaric raids in the public eye in hopes of pushing workers into the shadows. An already hamstrung NLRB is facing court challenges that could severely undermine its long-term functioning, and employers are hell-bent on testing the limits of their power in this moment to discipline workers and their unions. What can unions do to survive in the second Trump presidency? What tactics and strategies can help organize more new members and best survive?
That's really nice of you to say, Bill. I'm 70 years old, and I've learned more about the far left listening to you in the last few weeks than in my 70 years. Hey, Bill, I really do appreciate you saying that. That's very, very nice to say. Look at that. Look at that freeze frame on that communist, too. That's pretty great. Two ladies, quick question. What am I knitting today? So I'm off topic. I am working on the mystery knit-along shawl that I've been working on for about a month or so. I'm working on this pattern with modular squares right now. It's a pain in the ass, but it looks cool. Thanks for asking, two ladies.
And all-out assault on labor and other rights? This is a question we've been taking up at Labor Notes through our roundtable series in partnership with the American Prospect, which you can find at labornotes.org/roundtable and soon to be reprinted at full at prospect.org. Labor Notes has been soliciting contributions from organizers and scholars on what unions can do besides hide or try to curry favor. Our goal is to help organizers think about this moment that we're in and reflect critically on strategies at their disposal. We're very grateful for our co-sponsors, Haymarket Books and the American Prospect, for making this event possible. And I'm grateful that we are joined by our panelists who are uniquely equipped to help us think through these questions. We're joined tonight by Brendan Mencia, UAW Region 9A Director, Diamond Tay Brown, President of the Baltimore Teachers Union, and Jackson Potter, Vice President of the Chicago Teachers Union. I am going to kick us off with a question for all of you. To start, can you give us a sense of how the terrain has shifted for your union and other unions you're in touch with over the past year? What has changed under Trump?
I can start. A couple of things have shifted. One of the things I'm noticing is that we're getting a lot more requests to be in coalitions. I think that's a great thing. And we really want to take advantage of that. It's great to see more workers seeking to work together. We're also fortunately getting more members interested in organizing. I know a lot of people are feeling a lot of fear and uncertainty in this time, but people are using that fear to do something, and they're reaching out to say, how can I be more involved in my union? Or how can, is there anything that you guys are working on that I can be helpful with? There's been a lot more focus on revenue generation. I think because people are seeing all the different ways that we're being challenged with funding cuts. And so people want to be more on offense there. And lastly, I'll say that I've seen a lot more communal.
Ha 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 ha. How long have you been watching Socialism Saturday? Elder Swiss, this is a question for you. We're stopping the entire stream just for you. I expect you to answer my question. How long have you been watching my content, specifically? We're already starting off with retardation today. Elder Swiss, how long have you been watching my content? This is your second time. All right, you're brand new. You're basically a baby. You don't know shit about shit. You have not seen anything yet, bro. So let me explain this to you in very, very, very small words. The reason you hate Islam is because you have been programmed to hate Islam for reasons that involve us going to war in the Middle East on behalf of Israel. Only literal retards who only consume conservative Zionist media believe that Islam is a bigger problem than radical revolutionary socialists. Also, great point. We don't watch champagne socialists here. The fact that you don't know the difference between champagne socialists like Hassan Piker and Vosh and people like this who are running the teachers unions that are educating your kids in the K through 12 public schools, that is a reflection of the shitty conservative media that you have been consuming. Amalek says there are a handful of Muslims in this country compared to the far left. Zionists use anti-Islam towards the right wing and make you have a warped view on the topic. I don't like either of them, and that's a good point too. I'm not pro-fucking Muslim. I'm not pro-Islam, but the fact of the matter is the only people who are bent out of shape about Muslims and complain about them all the fucking time are people who consume too much Zionist conservative media, which has brainwashed you to believe that Muslims are the biggest problem that you have in the world when they are not, because Israel wants us to go to war with Muslim countries on their behalf and send Americans to die on their behalf because they don't want to fight their own battles. They want us to do it for them, and they are the ones that are controlling the media that you're listening to. So is Islam a problem? I guess sure. Is it a bigger problem in America than the far left? Nope, not by a long shot. And anyone who has watched my content for any significant amount of time understands that. So I recommend that if you believe that Islam is the biggest problem in the world, either sit down and shut up and listen, or get out and go back to your conservative Zionist influencer, because I'm not going to coddle that bullshit here. It's stupid. It's stupid. Moving on.
Spaces be created. And I know in my local, at the Baltimore Teachers Union, we are intentionally creating more space for people to be communal, because people don't want to be alone. They want to be together. They want to feel joy. They want to feel a sense of belonging. And so we're creating those opportunities for people to do that. And I'm seeing that happen in a lot of other spaces as well.
Happy to go next. Agree with what was said around like the coalition work that President Brown referenced is growing, and it's kind of the best of worlds and the worst of worlds. We have, the 13th largest military on the planet in ICE and
we have the 13th largest military on the planet in terms of ICE, because the teachers unions are protesting against ICE. Thank you, Napperjack Crafty. I've been watching your older content and I'm amazed at your patience. Yeah. You've dealt with a lot of vitriol in the study and exposure of leftists. I have, and most of that vitriol comes from the conservative right. It doesn't actually come from the left. Most of the bullshit that I have to deal with comes from the right, and it's not even close, not by a long shot. Also, it's funny, like, I've learned so much since I started covering socialism. I'm almost embarrassed to go back and look at what I was saying 3 years ago, because I've learned so much since I started covering this stuff and really got into studying it. But it is a trip. It is a trip, that's for sure. But I do appreciate the super chat. And oh, yeah, way to stir the pot, bro. Christians are a way bigger problem in the U.S. than Muslims. They hand over our government to Zionists and they import third worlders. The second and third generations of them are often far leftists. So true. So true. Hey guys, for everyone talking about Muslims and in their heads reading about Muslims, for all of you conservatives that I just triggered by telling you that your media has brainwashed you to hate Muslims when they're not the biggest problem we have, I just want to remind you that we are watching a video right now about organizing against Trump that has 2 teachers unions leaders in it. You want to tell me the Muslims are the biggest problem we have in the world? Do the Muslims control the teachers' unions? Do the Muslims control what your kids learn in K through 12 public schools? Did any of you that are crying and reading about Muslims, did any of you send your kids to public schools? Oh, congratulations, you sent them into a far left indoctrination factory and you didn't even fucking know it. Because it is not the Muslims that control the K through 12 public schools that are educating your little darlings and teaching them to be trans and queer and far leftists and all of that stuff. The people who are educating your little darlings are the far leftists in the fucking teachers unions who are not Muslim. So can we please focus?
Federal agencies deploying into our cities and wreaking havoc, spreading terror and fear, pointing guns, using unconstitutional police tactics, really trying to inflict a Gestapo-like terror on our communities.
I know,
And
I
yet,
said that
still,
earlier.
the greatest amount of solidaristic expression I've seen in my lifetime, with people coming out of the woodwork, setting up rapid response, going to schools before and after dismissal to protect and defend, monitor, resist, confront, and willingly put their bodies on the line to ensure that our neighbors, immigrant families, Black families that are in the crosshairs of this administration are protected. I'd also say that workers and our unions seem to be finally considering that maybe what we've been doing all along isn't working, and certainly not well enough. So, we just held the first strike school that Mayday Strong sponsored with People's Action. And there were clergy, there were immigrant rights groups, there were civil rights groups.
I totally fucking forgot about this. The Mayday Strong Coalition, which is mostly organized by the teachers' unions, to include the NEA and the AFT, but also all the local branches of both of those, right? They are working together to hold a strike school. So do you want to know how the far left is preparing to do their little mass general strike in 2028? They are literally starting to hold strike schools all over the country where they're getting all of these far left groups together and they're coordinating on how do we organize a mass general strike. And this is what they're going to use. They are literally coordinating this years ahead of time. They're not planning on doing a mass general strike for another 2.5 years. And they're starting to hold schools, and they're starting to get their chess pieces in a row. Anyone who plays chess, you understand how to do this, right? You have to get your chess pieces all in position before you go in for the checkmate. It's a process of building out your chess pieces and responding to the maneuvers of your opponent, so that once you get your pieces all in a row, it's literally just a matter of time. It's just a matter of moves until you're able to get checkmate. That is what they're doing right now, right in front of us. Amalek, telling me not to read something is probably not the best way to get me not to read something. You know I'm an Aries, that doesn't work. It's like let me do exactly the opposite of what you tell me not to do. If we lived in okay. I disavow everything Amalek put in the chat. I'm not reading that on the screen.
There were auto workers and nurses and communication workers and teachers together cross-training. And there just isn't enough of that outside of labor notes, where unions themselves are willingly and voluntarily partaking in that kind of dynamic effort.
We have to look at that
I have a lot of hope,
thing.
and there's a long way to go.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I think Well, first of all, thank you all for the invitation and for hosting this event. I think it's important to take account of.
Hang on. Tolkien fan, every group or organization that seeks to dictate how to live everyday life and vilify others are a cult and should be considered as such. Well, indeed. I agree. Thank you for the super chat.
What is truly different about this moment and what is the same and a continuity of what we've been dealing with all along, because I think that's the only way to actually make sense of what we're supposed to do as a labor movement and as working class organizations going forward. What is truly shocking and horrible is, everything that, my two co-panelists have already said. The escalation of attacks on immigrants, on civil rights, on civil liberties, the attack on unions, and the attack on federal workers specifically, which dwarfs what happened to PATCO, frankly, by this point. And also, I think there was a moment, where we thought in the labor movement, nowhere near the scale needed, but that we could revive a labor movement, we could organize, we could start thinking about building density. This was because of, a combination of big reform efforts in major unions like the Teamsters and UAW, and of course that's building on the legacy of CTU and others within the teachers unions and the rank and file efforts that have happened in the labor movement among teachers over the last decade. But there's also the Biden NLRB, which was, truly trying to tip the scale back to an equal playing field, away from corporate power and the bosses. And so, we had the breakthrough at Amazon, we had Starbucks Workers United, the UAW finally organized at Volkswagen in Tennessee. I can go on and on about all the different victories at small workplaces to large workplaces that we were starting to see. And that has really taken a hit. It's not over. By no means does that mean
Hang
that
on. GV Gamer, you're saying a lot of stuff in the chat, which means you aren't listening to what's going on the screen, and nothing you're saying in the chat has is any relation to what is actually being said on the video. If you think these people are dumb, get the fuck out. We are not here to complain and own the libs. We are here to listen to what they have to say. I don't want to hear anything more from you that is not related to the video or any sort of ranting or raving or pontification. I don't give a fuck. You are here to listen, and if you have questions, you can ask those questions, but no more of the ranting and bullshit in the chat. You're not the fucking drunk uncle. I don't want that shit here. Cut it out. They're trying hard to pull our local Teamsters union into this mess, but I've been trying to fight them. Well, you know what's funny about that? Actually, let me pull this up. You know what's funny about that? Do you guys remember back during the RNC? Oh, hang on. Do you guys remember back during the RNC when I said the RNC was basically, where the fuck is it? The RNC, found it. Do you guys remember back during the RNC when I pointed out correctly that the RNC had a socialist union organizer speaking on night one of the convention? It was their big keynote speaker, and it was the Teamsters. And everyone was like, Karlyn, what are you talking about? He's a union guy. He just wants to work with the workers. He's on our side. Look, he's speaking at the Republican convention. He's on our side. I took so much shit over this, but Nick Fuentes agreed with me, by the way, and Nick was right about that. Nick was the only other person who was like, it was me and Nick Fuentes being like, why the fuck is the RNC having a Teamster union member who's obviously a communist? And if you listen to the content of what he was saying, it was socialist throughout the entire speech. Why are they having a socialist keynote night one of the RNC? Well, guess what? That same union leader that I said was a communist when he keynoted night one of the RNC, this past week, he came out in favor of the Starbucks workers' strike. Does anyone want to guess who is organizing the Starbucks workers' strike? Does anyone want to take a shot in the dark? Who is organizing the Starbucks workers' strike? Oh, socialists and communists. And we know because we're on their organizing calls, it's socialists and communists. It's the DSA, working with Starbucks Workers United, which is the Starbucks union. The Starbucks union, by the way, is all completely socialist. The DSA has a program to get DSA members jobs in Starbucks to organize unions. It's explicitly what they're doing. They are the ones pushing the Starbucks worker strike because they're trying to cripple that entire business for the holidays. And look who came out in favor of it. The Teamster leader who spoke on night one at the RNC that I said was a socialist when he spoke at the fucking convention. And everyone was like, no, he's on our side. No, he's not. Language never lies. These people's ideas are clear once you learn how to speak the language. If you do not understand how to speak the language, then okay, I already literally told you to shut the fuck up. And now I'm putting you in a timeout because you're obviously not listening to what I'm saying. So, timeout, you come back, you keep talking, you're going to get banned and you're not going to like it. So I was right. They were wrong. Again, shocking. Angry Gringo over on Rumble says, United Auto Workers, useless. Just like the two nurses unions I was in, I was very pro-union for a long time. I ignored the claims of political subversion. Some of our unions were involved in it. No more. Yeah, the unions are all communist and socialist. Not everyone in a union is a communist or socialist, but all the unions are run by communists and socialists. Listen again. He's going to go through a whole list of them.
Labor movement among teachers.
Back it up.
Escalation of attacks on immigrants, on civil rights, on civil liberties, the attack on unions, and the attack on federal workers specifically, which dwarfs what happened to PATCO, frankly, by this point. And also, I think there was a moment, where we thought in the labor movement, and nowhere near the scale needed, but that we could revive a labor movement. We could organize. We could start thinking about building density. This was because of, a combination of big reform efforts in major unions like the Teamsters and UAW, and of course that's building on the legacy of CTU and others within the teachers unions and the rank and file efforts that have happened in the labor movement among teachers over the last decade. But there's also the Biden NLRB, which was, truly trying to tip the scale back to an equal playing field, away from corporate power and the bosses. And so, we had the breakthrough at Amazon. We had Starbucks Workers United. The UAW finally organized at Volkswagen in Tennessee. I can go on and on about all the different victories at small workplaces to large workplaces that we were starting to see. And that has really taken a hit. It's not over. By no means does that mean that organizing is not possible under Trump or under this new, federal landscape. But what has happened is a sense that we are a lot more on defense, right? And it's hard to think about a positive vision if you're always having to defend the very little you have. And so the Trump offensive has been really something. And it's been disorienting, I think, a lot politically for people in order to make sense of that. But what's the same? The same is that, we're still dealing with the same forces as always, right? I said escalation of attacks against immigrants. I didn't say for the first time ever attack on immigrants, right? I said, a horrible turn at the NLRB doesn't mean we haven't dealt with NLRBs that are not worker friendly or union friendly in the past. Corporate greed, concentration of power, rampant inequality, and at the bottom of it politically, a Democratic Party that doesn't know how to take on a fight. And so that's the other.
So not a fan of the Democratic Party. I know that's shocking to everyone who watches my content.
Part of this, right? That we have to organize a different kind of vision politically. And I think, one thing that we'll touch upon, I think today is also the fact that, say what we want about what the labor movement stands for and working class
National Labor
principles
Review
and
Board
organization. More working class people voted for Donald Trump in this past election than they did in the previous two elections. And that needs to be taken into account because any vision going forward that is centered on a different vision of working class politics has to make sense that you're going to have to organize with those very same people. You cannot ignore that. You have to work within the conditions of what the working class is today to begin with. So that looks different in New York City, in Chicago, in LA, in Tennessee, right? And I think that's also important to take into account, that you have to be rooted in those local fights. But we have no choice but to engage in those fights as they are right now.
Great. Well, thank you to Brandon and our panelists. I just want to say that the American Prospect is proud to be partnering on this, and thanks to Labor Notes for reaching out and making this happen. I want to follow a little bit on some of what Brandon said and put this question out to the group. You know, a lot of people, I think, talk about the Trump administration in these very existential terms, like we're in a fight for our democracy. This is an existential moment for whether it's the labor movement or just sort of the polity writ large. But there's another existential moment for unions that's been happening all along, and this is similar to what Brandon was saying. Right now we have 6% union density in the private sector, which was in the 30s, in the 1950s and 60s. So the question is, how do you work on not just beating back the existential threat of today and move forward on the existential threat that's been happening for 40 years, which is the slow dissolution of union density across the entire economy? And any of you can take that.
I mean, I can start this round. I think it's good to look at history in terms of when we've seen the labor movement rise and fall. And so it's important to note, if you look at the 1920s, according to historian Stephen Hahn, the biggest political movement of the 20s was the Ku Klux Klan, and it was in the North. Chicago,
really,
I think had 50,000 members. There were 5 million members nationwide. You had, Father Coughlin, you had Huey Long, you had these populists really feeding a frenzy of xenophobia and anti-Semitism. And it was the Great Depression that interrupted that movement's momentum. You had anti-immigrant laws passed, and during that moment, workers rose up. You had the Flint strikes, you had steel strikes, you had all kinds of activity, Minneapolis truckers, and those things in building the CIO created the greatest improvement to workers' lives in probably the entire history of the country. And it shifted into a New Deal that went away from the kind of eugenics that had dominated the prior period. So that tells me that a phoenix can rise from the ashes, that the labor movement is not even close to being extinguished, that it just takes some sparks and effort and initiative, coordination, resources, and some vision, imagination to revive what seems to be broken or dormant. And we did that with the CTU. Like in 2012, we engaged structures that had been moribund and were, petrified in kind of bad practice, and revived them to a point where we, were able to take on one of the most powerful politicians and beat them in Chicago. And that lent itself to a whole set of teachers taking action, even in red states with the Red for Ed movement, where union rights weren't secure or institutional, and people were able to win big things that way. So I do think right now is a moment where, unions have a high degree of popularity. People think socialism is viable. So how do we generate opportunities for not just those in unions, that 10%, but the 100% of workers who need one, who want health care that's affordable, who want dignified living wages, who want affordable housing, who believe in free college and early childhood education for all and childcare for all. these are popular majoritarian issues. And so, to Brandon's point, if we stand on these popular issues and we begin an arc of escalation together, labor and community united in coalition, I think it's unstoppable. And we just have to provide some vehicles and opportunities for people to express.
Wow. He just laid the entire fucking game plan out. I need to clip that. I need to go back and clip that. That is a full clip.
States with the Red Fred movement, where union rights weren't secure or institutional, and people were able to win big things that way. So I do think right now is a moment where, unions have a high degree of popularity. People think socialism is viable. So how do we generate opportunities for not just those in unions, that 10%, but the 100% of workers who need one, who want health care that's affordable, who want dignified living wages, who want affordable housing, who believe in free college and early childhood education for all and childcare for all. These are popular majoritarian issues. And so, to Brandon's point, if we stand on these popular issues and we begin an arc of escalation together, labor and community united in coalition, I think it's unstoppable. And we just have to provide some vehicles and opportunities for people to express that shared vision.
All right,
I
hang
agree.
on. Hang on. Do you guys want to help me share this on Twitter real quick? Hang on. Let me get this clip on Twitter. I just need to save it. Do you guys want to help me make the vice president of the Chicago Teachers Union go viral on Twitter real quick? That'd be pretty great. More union members need to see what's really happening. I agree. Guys, give me 1 second. I'm just going to edit this clip right now. If you need to take a break, you go take a 2-minute break. You go to the bathroom, go get a drink, go get a snack, whatever. I just need to edit this clip real quick, and then we're all going to share it on Twitter together, because as we know, the key to making things go viral on Twitter is when we all share this together and do this as a group activity, and that's the way it's got to be. Hang on. Let me get my watermark on here, because God knows if I don't, someone will steal it from me. Teachers unions do not understand economics. Well, that's really, capitalism is not just an economic question. Capitalism is a cultural question. So, hang on. 1 sec. One sec. Let me just clip this. All right. Doot. Okay, let me just get this in here. This is Jackson Potter from the Chicago Teachers Union. Get my watermark over it. 1 sec, guys. Hang in. I'm almost done. 1 sec. It's November 29th. So this was on... 1 sec, guys. Sorry. I have a thing I do on videos where I write on the video where we got this from, so that when we find it later, we can keep track of where we got it from and who we got it from and all this stuff. So this was on what day? November 18th. And this is Jackson Potter, Chicago Teachers Union Vice President. How can unions defend worker power against .0, hosted by Haymarket Books. Okay. Hang on. I am now exporting this. Unions are socialist. And we're all going to tweet this together, okay? We're all going to make this go viral together. We're going to get lots of views on this real quick. Because that's what we have to do. That is what we have to do on the internet. Jackson Potter, Vice President of the Chicago Teachers Union, openly admits that the unions are engaging in socialist organizing. All right. There we have the tweet. Let me get the video into it. Oh, come on. Shoop. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to tweet this out and then all you guys are going to share it and I don't want to hear any complaining, okay? This is how we make information go viral. It's got to upload. When I tweet this out, I'm going to put the link in the chat, and what I need you to do is bookmark it, like it, retweet it, quote tweet it, and then reply to it. Do all those 5 things. It doesn't matter how many followers you have on Twitter. It doesn't matter if only you and, your Aunt Sue follow you on Twitter. It doesn't matter. If you like the tweet, bookmark the tweet, retweet the tweet, quote tweet the tweet, and reply to the tweet, you are still driving the algorithm to get this information in front of as many people as possible, because that's what we have to do, because, no one else wants to sit here and do this stuff. All right. Error? What the fuck? Twitter doesn't want to upload the video. That's not cool. That is not cool, Twitter. That's not cool. Try again. Upload the damn video. Twitter's been doing this lately. What the fuck? What the fuck, Elon Musk? I just paid Elon Musk like $400 the other day. He can't even have a video uploaded to the site. Look at the upload. This is all Twitter fucking up. Error. All right. Well, we're going to continue with this. And when I actually get this uploaded, when Twitter wants to fucking cooperate, then we'll come back to it. Try one more time, maybe. No, it's fucking up again. All right, great. That's just great. That's great. That's great. Real glad I gave Elon Musk $400 the other day. That's awesome. All right, let's just listen.
With Jackson, and I really agree with the vision setting. I'm a strong proponent of labor having an agenda. We know we don't want an authoritarian in office, but I think we also have to talk about what do we want, because I don't want what we had before the authoritarian. I don't think
For the blue check.
The two-party duopoly is the best system for us either. And so we have to have a concrete.
I don't think the two-party duopoly is what's best for us either. So another teachers union person who is not a fan of the Democrats.
We don't want an authoritarian in office, but I think we also have to talk about what do we want, because I don't want what we had before the authoritarian. I don't think the two-party duopoly is the best system for us either. And so we have to have a concrete agenda, so that way we have a guide to follow, a way to determine who we endorse. So we're not just endorsing based off of things like what the candidate's best speech is and whatever dreams they're willing to sell us, but are they willing to help us push our agenda along? So if one of the things on our agenda is no less than 35.
Breaking news. Twitter has uploaded the video. So I have now tweeted the video. So what I need everyone to do, I'm going to put the link in the chat. There you go. On YouTube. There you go on Rumble. I need everyone to go to that link on Twitter. I don't care if you don't like Twitter. This is these are the tools we are given. I need everyone to do 5 things. I need you to bookmark the tweet. I need you to like the tweet. I need you to reply to the tweet, say, this is crazy, or you can tag people that you want to see, but just reply to the tweet. You can say whatever you want as long as it's appropriate. I want you to retweet the tweet, and I want you to quote tweet the tweet. I want you to do both. Retweet it and write something. Now, do not start. If you retweet it, do not start your tweet with a tag, okay? So don't do something like that. Because if you do that, no one is going to see your tweet. In order for people to see the tweet, you have to start it with a period, and then you can tag whoever you want, or you can start it with a real sentence or something like that. But anytime you guys are retweeting stuff and you're just putting a whole bunch of tags and you're starting the tweet with a tag, you are like, I can't use that. It's not helpful because you are impeding the ability of the tweet to actually get any views. Because what's going to happen if you only start it with just a tag, only the people who are actually following Fox News are going to see it. Okay? So don't do that. Start it with a period if you must tag people, but you have to start it with some sort of real letter. Okay? Do all those things, and let's see how many people have done them. 30 people. We've got almost 300 people watching on YouTube. We've got many more on Rumble. We've got a whole bunch of people on Twitter. So we need to get those numbers up. Come on. Make it go viral, guys. Here, I'm going to pin it to my post, pin it to my profile, so it'll make it share automatically. And the more people who share this, the more people we get to see it, and then we get the vice president of the Chicago Teachers Union in trouble, and that's just good fun. All right, everyone, do it. 1 in the chat if you did all the things I told you to do. 2 in the chat if you haven't done them yet, but you're going to. 1 in the chat if you did all the things I told you to do. You bookmarked the tweet, you've liked the tweet, you've retweeted the tweet, you replied to the tweet, you've quote tweeted the tweet. 2 in the chat if you haven't done it yet, but you're gonna. If you're anything other than 1 or 2, get the fuck out. If you are anything other than 1 or 2, there's the door. You can leave. I don't have a Twitter account. Make a fucking Twitter account. Go make a Twitter account right now. I don't want to. I don't give a flying fuck what you want. I don't want to say. I am sick. I have had the bubonic viral plague for several days now. And I'm still here doing something I don't want to do. So I don't give a fuck if you don't want to be on Twitter. Go make a fucking Twitter account. All right, let's keep going with the presentation. Thank you to everyone who did what I asked you to do. I appreciate it.
$5 starting wage for any worker. That's the question that should be asked for anybody that we're willing to endorse. Yes, it should be less about us hearing what they want and more about seeing if they're willing to do what we want. I think also we have to strengthen organizational structures and work towards supermajorities, which is something that CTU pushes very often, and use the pathways that have been set for us. We are working in the BTU to build our 10-to-1 ratios, make sure we have building
I have at least 2
representatives
typos
at
in that
every
tweet, but it's
work site.
okay.
Make sure
It's
we
okay.
have union chapter committees. Make sure just these basic foundational things that help with organizing are strengthened. Because we can talk about all of these big issues and stopping the MAGA agenda and the future of the labor movement, but if we don't have anybody to show up to actually do the work and move these things along, we're just sharing our analysis and sharing a vision, but we don't just want to share a vision. We want that vision. I think we need to be working towards increasing membership, engagement, education, especially around things like May Day, contract alignment, workers' rights. And we need to be working to improve our relationships with community and whatever constituency we serve. I think these basic foundational organizing things are and pressing them even harder and harder and harder is going to be very important for whatever fight we want to get into.
Yeah, I think building off of that, I think at the core we're saying, I think the same thing, which is great. But I think we have to be fighting unions, unions that are putting the struggles at the workplace and in our communities front and center in the world, the work we do. We cannot be pretending to have ambitions politically, wheeling and dealing in politics, if we're not actually doing the work of organizing our membership, winning strong contracts, making drastic, real improvements in our own membership's lives. Also organizing density in the sectors that we represent, organizing in new sectors that don't have much representation, supporting workers who right now want to organize more than ever, even though the law is stacked against them, giving them the resources to organize. And then, yeah, I think we're all saying the same thing at the end. Like, we need to have a vision for a working class politics that actually serves the people, actually builds.
Yo, 2 ladies in with the 5 gifted channel memberships. Thanks, 2 ladies. Congrats to everyone who got a channel membership. Appreciate the support very much.
Builds worker power and is not, the fake version that is being offered through MAGA and other, other political ideologies that don't lead anywhere, that just lead us back in the same circles. So I'm fully on board with that.
Jackson, in your piece, you wrote about the need for shared campaigns and aligned goals, but you emphasized that the joint bodies that bring together most unions, like central labor councils or the national AFL-CIO, are too often unable to lead that work because they're unable to mobilize the base of union members that, in the same way that large local unions can, like the Chicago Teachers Union or the Baltimore Teachers Union. Can you say more about the types of shared campaigns or aligned goals that you envision and how we can get more of the labor movement pushing?
Yeah, and I would say, like, when you have praxis between the Central Labor Council and large locals, really tremendous things are possible, because then you're working across this layer of significant unions in one geography that can align around a set of tactics, campaigns, organizing new workers, etc. But we just don't see enough of that. And so one idea that is really gaining steam is, how do you align your contract demands? We see the UTLA, Teachers of Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Diego, all up and down the coast have aligned their contract expirations to now. A lot of them are bargaining currently. They've shared a set of really popular and impressive contract proposals, some of which include, expanding childcare for all, for example, like I mentioned earlier. Also, Unite Here, Local 11 in Los Angeles. I just was learning about this campaign at the Bargaining for the Common Good conference recently in DC. And one thing they're helping with is cohering a whole set of locals and community groups around the World Cup and Olympics and contract expirations that are happening in May of 2028, when UAW also has contract expirations for the big three.
What did I tell you? May 2028. All the unions are coordinating this is one of the things they're doing. All of the unions are trying to coordinate their contracts to expire in May 2028 explicitly to support this mass general strike that they want to do. This is not about helping workers. This has nothing to do with helping workers. This all has to do with coordinating a mass general strike to shut down the economy. Again, Jackson. In fact, let me just clip this. I know I'm going to clip it anyway, so why don't I just do it?
Angeles, I just was learning of really popular and impressive contract proposals, some of which include, expanding childcare for all, for example, like I mentioned earlier. Also, Unite Here, Local 11 in Los Angeles. I just was learning about this campaign at the Bargaining for the Common Good conference recently in DC. And one thing they're helping with is cohering a whole set of locals and community groups around the World Cup and Olympics and contract expirations that are happening in May of 2028, when the UAW also has contract expirations for the big three, the CTU's contracts expiring then, and a whole set of locals are doing that. to align with the call to action that the UAW made. And so if we can muster it, I think what SEIU Local 26 has done in the Twin Cities to align community and labor demands, both in sort of contract negotiations, in the legislative arena, and around federal policies, we can fight for things and win them together that we could never dream of on our own. And it increases the likelihood we can build the momentum necessary to win something that we've never won before, such as national health care for all. And I'd say, we could consider some structure tests prior to May of 28, because that might be too late for an authoritarian regime that is attempting to reduce our rights and freedoms right before our eyes. So Mayday Strong's helping to convene labor and community across the country to launch revenue campaigns to tax billionaires at state levels across the country and create a swell of activity that could fuel fights nationally. So, if in the event that Trump and his cronies like Steve Bannon, they are saying we'll go to jail if we don't restrict democratic rights and interfere with elections in November in the midterms, we got to be ready for that likelihood and possibility that they will declare martial law.
All right, that got way off track with the clip I wanted to make. Let me just grab this clip real quick. There we go. Got that saved for later. Two ladies. This is so scary. They're setting things up to destroy our country on May 2028. Yeah, they're trying to spark the revolution, guys. That is what they're trying to do with this. And actually, like they're talking about trying to disrupt the Olympics. So the Olympics are going to be in Los Angeles, right, in 2028. It sounds like they're trying to disrupt the Olympics. Hang on, let me listen to this again.
To align with SMA of 2028, when the UAW also has contract expirations for the big three, the CTU's contract.
Hang on.
This layer of significant unions in one geography that can align around a set of tactics, campaigns, organizing new workers, etc. But we just don't see enough of that. And so one idea that is really gaining steam is how do you align your contract demands? We see the UTLA, Teachers of Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Diego, all up and down the coast have aligned their contract expirations to now. A lot of them are bargaining currently. They've shared a set of really popular and impressive contract proposals, some of which include, expanding childcare for all, for example, like I mentioned earlier. Also, Unite Here, Local 11 in Los Angeles. I just was learning about this campaign at the Bargaining for the Common Good conference recently in DC. And
No. Literally no one said this. Stop making shit up. It's not helpful. Stop making shit up to comply with your conservative bullshit talking points. Literally no one has said this. I don't give a flying fuck. You are in my classroom. You misunderstand the dynamic here. You think you can shitpost in my chat with whatever conservative bullshit you heard from your most favorite fucking influencer. I don't give a fuck. This is a question only for this person. It's not okay to golf. What is the purpose of the mass general strike in 2028? Go. You want to make a fucking joke? What is the real purpose of the mass general strike in 2028? Please explain it to the class. We're going to reestablish our fucking hierarchy. I'm on top, you're on bottom. You will answer the question I ask you. What is the purpose of a mass general strike in 2028? Explain it to all of us. Prove you are actually fucking listening. So maybe not joke. Do you think the communist revolution is fucking funny? It's really about a Trump third term, triggered lips. Shut the fuck up. No, now he is going in a timeout. I don't want to hear him talk again for the rest of the stream. We listen to what they're saying, not what other people's opinions are. True. True. True.
They're helping with is cohering a whole set of locals and community groups around the World Cup and Olympics and contract expirations that are happening in May of 2028 when the UAW also has contract.
Do you want to know why? Do you want to know why conservatives never make any progress against the real far left, and the far left is able to openly plan for the communist revolution? You guys understand this, right? They are openly planning for the communist overthrow of the government in public, and conservatives are like, the libs are triggered because of Trump third term. It's like, you want to know why? You want to know why these people can literally openly plan for the communist revolution? Because conservative retards don't take it seriously. It's all about a Trump third term. Ha ha. Triggered. And in the meanwhile, they're still planning for the communist revolution. And conservatives are high-fiving themselves because they triggered the libs, bro. It's infuriating. It's just a joke. Why can't I joke? Because we're actually doing something serious right now. If you want to joke, go back to Fox fucking News. Yeah, conservatives think they're going to win by owning the libs. It's infuriating. They never take it seriously. The rabbis called this the birth pains of Moshiach. They believe Edom, Rome, U.S. will go through extreme civil unrest to drive Jews to leave the West to move to Israel. Great. Great, Amalek. Great. When the Lamb opened the second seal, its rider was given the power. I can't deal with esoteric shit. I can't deal with the esoterics. You'll have to explain to me what that means later, okay? I can't deal with it right now. Let's go back to this.
Expirations for the big three, the CTU's contracts expiring then, and a whole set of locals are doing that to align with the call to action that the UAW made. And so if we can muster it, I think what SEIU Local 26 has done in the Twin Cities to align community and labor demands, both in sort of contract negotiations, in the legislative arena, and around federal policies, we can fight for things and win them together that we could never dream of on our own. And it increases the likelihood we can build the momentum necessary to win something that we've never won before, such as national health care for all. And I'd say...
Hang on. It means they believe people will attack each other spontaneously all at once before Moshiach comes. Well, that's probably true. That's probably true.
We could consider some structure tests prior to May of 28, because that might be too late for an authoritarian regime that is attempting to reduce our rights and freedoms right before our eyes. So Mayday Strong's helping to convene labor and community across the country to launch revenue campaigns to tax.
Did you notice how he said Mayday Strong is the coalition made mostly of teachers unions? Did you notice he said that Mayday Strong is working to coordinate labor and community? I just want people to really observe this language game. They're coordinating labor and community. What does that mean? I don't give a flying fuck about your conservative fucking feelings. Either pay attention and learn or get the fuck out. Conservatives whining in my chat because their feelings have been hurt. I don't give a fuck about your feelings. Either toughen up or go away. What does labor and community mean? What does that mean? What does community mean in this context? They're organizing labor and community. What does community mean? Ninja Artist, I've answered this 4 or 5 times already this stream. I see you keep asking the question, but I've already answered it 4 or 5 times, which is why I'm not responding every single time you ask the question. I've answered it 4 or 5 times. It's to spark the revolution. What does community mean in this context? which is different than labor. The proletariat. Exactly. Exactly. They're organizing not just union members. And by the way, guys, he said this in the thing we clipped earlier. So if you don't know the context of this, you weren't actually listening to the clip earlier. He is separating union members from non-union members and saying we all have to coordinate together, the unions and the non-unions, in order to achieve socialist goals. That's what he said in the clip that we put on Twitter earlier. And so now he's being specific. This is not just about union members. This is also about non-union members. All right, you're now going in a fucking timeout because I don't give a fuck. Why are the retards even here tonight? Like, honestly. If you want to ask Karlyn a question, use super chats. That's a really good rule of thumb. Nope, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about the proletariat for the socialist revolution. Listen.
Too late for an authoritarian regime that is attempting to reduce our rights and freedoms right before our eyes. So Mayday Strong's helping to convene labor and community across the country to launch revenue campaigns to tax billionaires at state.
Labor means people in the unions. Community means proletarian oppressed workers that are not in unions. Does everyone understand? The solidarity between the union and the non-union. Because this is not just about organizing unions. This is not just about making things better for everyone. Okay, if you don't understand, then you need to ask a question. What do you not understand about it? The unions are not working for people in the union. The unions are doing socialist far left or, oh my God, it's mind-boggling to me that people don't understand this. Okay, we need to back up, clearly. Does everyone understand that the labor unions are not trying to make things better for workers in the union? One in the chat if you understand that the labor unions are not trying to make things better for workers in the union. 2 in the chat if you think the labor unions exist to make lives better for workers in the union. We're just going to go step by step because people obviously don't understand what I'm talking about. Okay. So now everyone is on board. Unions do not exist to make life better for the workers. If you do not understand that, you need to ask a question now. Ninja Artist, I feel like you're regressing, to be honest. I feel like you're regressing back to Retardia, and I don't like seeing it. Okay. 1 in the chat, if you understand that the labor unions are engaging in far left political organizing with the specific goal of advancing socialism and communism in the United States. 2 in the chat, if you think the labor unions are just groups of workers that are trying to make things better for other workers. 1 in the chat, if you understand that the unions are trying to do far left radical political organizing to advance socialism and communism in the United States. 2 in the chat if you don't believe that the unions support socialism or communism. Okay, lots of 1s. If you don't understand this, you need to ask a question. Now, putting together all of this. Okay, you obviously are not listening. So what I'm going to do for you is you either need to ask a question or I'm going to put you in a timeout so you can no longer talk. Because I feel like you're not listening and you're not asking questions. So either ask a question or you're going to get put in a timeout so you have to listen and not talk. Okay? Now, to put all this together, only about 10% of the US population are actually in labor unions. So, in order for the labor unions to engage in far left organizing with the explicit goal of advancing socialism and communism, they have to do what? If only 10% of the population are in unions, then the unions have to engage the other 90% of the population that are outside of the unions. This is all unions. This is not just public employees unions. This is all unions. All unions are socialist. All unions are run by the far left. All unions. Yes, even the one you're a member of. All unions. So when he is saying labor and community, labor means the people who are in the labor unions. Community means oppressed proletarian workers who are not yet in the labor unions. They need to engage them both because the ultimate goal is not just to make lives better for the workers in the unions. They don't give a flying fuck about that. They are using the unions to do political organizing to push socialism and communism in the United States. One in the chat if you understand what I just meticulously explained. 2 in the chat if you're still confused. And if you put 2 in that chat and you don't ask a question, Lord help you. If you are still confused, that is fine. But you need to formulate a question that expresses the information you need to be less confused. And if you can't do that, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Okay. Lots of ones in the chat. Let's keep going.
Levels across the country and create a swell of activity that could fuel fights nationally. So, if in the event that Trump and his cronies like Steve Bannon, they are saying we'll go to jail if we don't restrict democratic rights and interfere with elections in November in the midterms, we got to be ready for that likelihood and possibility that they will declare martial law and continue to federalize the National Guard and really lean in
thanks,
their
Malcolm.
undemocratic
Appreciate it.
values. And so part of what we have to do as democratic organizations is have structure tests for those types of threats to our very existential interests. And so, could we all go out on May 1st, whether it's taking a sick day or a personal day or calling off or a professional development day, and really disrupting? I know Indivisible is partnering with us on this. You could imagine what it would look like to have No Kings and May Day activity.
Indivisible is partnering with the labor unions. Imagine my shock.
And the immigrant justice community working together as a day without workers. I think something like that is going to need to happen and happen multiple times to get ready for the threats ahead. And by the way, May Day this year is on a Friday. We probably shouldn't have to work on Fridays anyway. So I'd encourage everybody to start planning that's going to.
Okay, this is another Jackson Potter clip. Jackson Potter just said that Indivisible, which is the No Kings organization, Indivisible is the organization that does the No Kings protests. They are actually funded by George Soros. They just said that Indivisible is working with them to support this. And what if we could get all of these different groups to come together to support this? All right, we need to clip this. Oh, and he's calling for a 4-day work week because he doesn't want to work on Fridays.
Ready for that. If in the event that Trump and his cronies like Steve Bannon, they are saying we'll go to jail if we don't restrict democratic rights and interfere with elections in November in the midterms, we got to be ready for that likelihood and possibility that they will declare martial law and continue to federalize the National Guard and really lean in their undemocratic values. And so part of what we have to do as democratic organizations is have structure tests for those types of threats to our very existential interests. And so, could we all go out on May 1st, whether it's taking a sick day or a personal day or calling off or a professional development day, and really disrupting? I know Indivisible is partnering with us on this. You could imagine what it would look like to have No Kings and May Day activities and the immigrant justice community working together as a day without workers. I think something like that is going to need to happen and happen multiple times to get ready for the threats ahead. And by the way, May Day this year is on a Friday. We probably shouldn't have to work on Fridays anyway. So I'd encourage everybody to start planning that that's going to be a day without workers, and we'll really test our mettle.
He just said it. He just said the plan for May Day 2026, which apparently is on a Friday. The plan for May Day 2026 is to do a strike, a mass strike that's like a practice run. They're going to call it a day without workers or something like that, with the goal being that all the unions, all the immigrant rights associations, all the tenant rights associations, all the unions. And guys, when I say all the unions, I mean all the unions, even the ones that you like. Someone asked about the construction workers unions. Yes, those. All the unions means all the unions, even the ones you like. No one gives a fuck about your feelings. No one gives a fuck that your dad was in the union. No one fucking cares. The unions are run by far left communists. So what they're planning on doing on May 1st, 2026 is coordinating among all of the unions, the teachers unions, the Starbucks unions, the Amazon unions, the airline unions, the auto worker unions, the grocery unions, every fucking union, every organization. And they want the Teamsters too. Okay. The next person who asks, but what about my favorite union? I am banning you permanently in the chat. I have said all unions no less than 15 fucking times in the last 20 minutes. All of the unions. Stop doing this shit. They want all of them to go on strike for one day on May 1st, 2026, to do a day without workers, in which their goal is going to be a demonstration of force. This is to demonstrate that they can get people to do it. It is a test run for the longer general strike that they want to have on May 1st, 2028. Does everyone understand what I am saying? One in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. Two in the chat if you are still confused. Okay. Thank you.
Great. I was going to ask about the May 2028 alignment, but I think we've got it all covered. But Brandon,
Brandon may have more on that than
yeah. Well,
one
thing I would ask is that obviously that alignment is going to occur. It would be the last year of the Trump presidency, and Jackson, I think, eloquently described the potential for what could be done in the years and months and weeks leading up to that moment. But there's also what could be done during that moment. I mean, nobody strikes me as capable of a Pullman strike style reaction than Donald Trump in full Grover Cleveland regalia. So the question is, how do you prepare for that, and how do you get other unions off the sidelines to say that there is power if we do this and jump in together, despite the risks that may come from the Trump administration in their sort of final years in power?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to remember that the call for
the mass general strike, where they want all of them to go on strike for an extended period of time, is in 2028. They will be doing several test strikes between now and 2028, One of the test strikes they want to do is on May Day, May 1st, 2026, which is on a Friday, to do a day without workers. So it's a test run. It is a practice run. And you're going to see more of the practice runs between now and 2028 because they're trying to get all their ducks in a row.
A general strike on contract alignment for May Day 2028 came out of a very different moment where we are today. We were in the middle of the Biden administration. We were in the middle of our stand-up strike. We had plans and visions, and we still do, right, to organize a lot more of the auto industry. But also, our strike spoke to so many of the core issues that working class people, union and non-union alike, we're dealing with around the country.
I want to emphasize what he just said because people may have missed it. He just said they came up with the plan of doing a mass general strike on May Day 2028 during the Biden administration. The UAW, the United Auto Workers, called for all the unions to coordinate their contract negotiations for May 1st, 2028 during the Biden administration. This did not happen during the Trump administration. Why? Because socialists and Democrats are not the same thing. Socialists don't like Democrats. Socialists weren't working with the Biden administration. They hated the Biden administration. No, they didn't vote for the Biden administration. These people more or less don't fucking vote. It's not to say union members don't vote. Of course, union members vote. We're talking about leadership here. They came up with this idea during the Biden administration. Is this why they want to make it where strikers get paid so they can strike for an extended period of time? Yup. That's exactly right.
No matter what industry or what sector you worked in or what union you were part of, and that's the fight for, living wages, the fight for, universal health care, the fight for retirement security, because that doesn't exist anymore. And the fight for our time back, right? We don't have to be in the richest country in the history of the world, working 7 days a week or 2 or 3 jobs just to get by. And so that is still the case today, right? Just because the president is different doesn't mean that those issues aren't the primary issues that working class people are constantly, fighting to change those conditions, trying to change. And so we have more power in numbers. That's the whole idea behind contract alignment. We have to link up across unions, across the different states, across different contexts, and unite behind these issues. But obviously, things have changed in the sense because politically we are in a different situation than we were a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and the major thing that we're dealing with now is that those very foundations that allow us to exist as a labor movement are under attack, right? Democracy, our civil liberties, our right to organize, just throwing out contracts, right, in the federal government. If that's done in the federal level, it can be done at the state level. It can be attempted to be done in the private sector. So these are all attacks that are existential ones. So I don't know what's going to happen between now, November 2025, and May Day 2028. But we have to be ready and prepare for whatever that is. But I will say one thing. I think it's going to be, again, returning to my other point earlier. We cannot go into May Day 2028 focused solely on Trump. I don't think the majority of the working class in this country would go on strike because of Donald Trump. That's really important, I think, to emphasize. So how we link up our different fights, I think, is a very important strategic question for us. I don't have the answers myself. I think that's part of what this conversation is about to start. But going forward, I think that's the
It is not about Trump. They came up with this plan before Trump was elected back to office. They started doing calls for unions to organize their contracts around May 1st, 2028, while Biden was still in office. This was well before Donald Trump won the November 2024 election. They are not moving that date. There is no universe in which they're moving that date. Does everyone understand this? This is not about Trump. This is not about Biden. Socialists and communists don't think about it like that. They do not like the Democrats. They are not tribalist fucking shills. That's not what this is about. It is about organizing a mass general strike to elicit a communist revolution in this country. That is what this is about. And they would do it if a Democrat was in office, and they're going to do it if Trump was in office. If Kamala Harris had won the November 2024 election, they would still be organizing for the mass general strike. Does everyone understand?
Organizing question in my mind. It's what is the program that workers, no matter what their political affiliations or ideas are, can get behind to change the trajectory that this country's going on right now.
So in the first article published in the Roundtable, Peter Olney and Rand Wilson wrote, for workers to survive Trump's MAGA moment and build a fighting labor movement for the future, both electoral politics, something old, and militant actions to disrupt business as usual, something new for many unions, will be key. Do you agree? And how are you thinking about the 2026 and even 2028 elections?
Are you fucking serious? Are you? I have answered this question. How? Okay. There keep being different people who are asking this question. And so I'm going to just pause. Again, I do not know why on a night that I am really not feeling well, we are slipping into absolute and total fucking retardation. I have answered this question no less than a dozen fucking times. Pop quiz for the chat. For everyone who is smarter than Michael, what are the socialists hoping to achieve with a mass general strike in 2028? What have I said no less than a dozen times? A bit more clarity? Hey, Michael, I'm going to give you a bit more clarity. I'm banning you for the rest of the stream. I am banning you for 24 hours from the chat. You cannot come back. If you come back after 24 hours and you still prove to me that you aren't fucking listening, you will be permanently banned, because I'm getting really sick of answering the same question over and over and over and over and over again. This is the spark of the revolution. It's the revolution. It's crippling the economy to spark a revolution. That is what they are trying to do. That is there's no more clarity that is needed. If you don't understand this, Michael, you're not smart enough to be here, bro. Well, no, they're not trolls. They're fucking retards. They're retards who are not listening. This is why I have to stop every single fucking stream I do to say, are you listening? 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 Because people do not fucking listen. Well, Karlyn, if you were nicer, they would listen. I find that very difficult to believe. Listen.
Change the trajectory that this country's going on right now.
So in the first article published in the Roundtable, Peter Olney and Rand Wilson wrote, for workers to survive Trump's MAGA moment and build a fighting labor movement for the future, both electoral politics, something old, and militant actions to disrupt business as usual, something new for many unions, will be key. Do you agree? And how are you thinking about the 2026 and even 2028 elections?
I do agree, and I think that
no, he actually did not just join. He was here for the entire stream, and now you're getting banned for the rest of the stream as well, because this is the second retard thing you've said. So nope, he was not here the entire time. Enjoy your 24-hour ban. Don't ever say something retard in my chat again. And you can come back after 24 hours and you know, if you want to participate, you're welcome, but no more retard shit. Let's rewind again so we make sure the retards hear this.
So, in the first article published in the Roundtable, Peter Only and Rand Wilson wrote, for workers to survive Trump's MAGA moment and build a fighting labor movement for the future, both electoral politics, something old, and militant actions to disrupt business as usual, something new for many unions, will be key. Do you agree? And how are you thinking about the 2026 and even 2028 elections?
I do agree, and I think that one of the things I said earlier applies here, which is being more strategic about vetting certain candidates. And I wholeheartedly agree with Brandon that it can't just be we don't want Trump. It has to be what type of candidates are we looking for, and what are we looking for them to do. I also think that one of the things that we need to do is increase our, I know in the BTU it's called our Committee on Political Education. It's our PAC, where we have the ability to endorse. I think we need to increase those memberships to increase our electoral power through money, but also through more people and different people, so that way different perspectives can be offered. And I think it's really important to expand our members' knowledge about all of the possibilities beyond just the Republican and Democratic Party. For so long, I believe labor has just been inherently tied to the Democratic Party. And I think some people, the same way they're not going to fight again or go out into the streets just to fight against Trump, they're not going to put in extra time and resources just to get the Democrats back in office. That can't be what it's about. And it can't be, hey guys, we got to just get them back in office so that we can actually do something different. No, people want something different now. And I think all the things we talked about earlier, as far as building structures, that is what we need to build the militant actions. And we're going to have to take time. I know that everything seems very urgent right now. Like, oh, we need to protest like tomorrow. We need to show up with a cadre against ICE. Yes, but that is alone is not going to get us to the militant actions that disrupt business as usual. It will increase visibility. It will continue to give people a place to corral. But the militant actions come from having strong organizational structures, strong communication, a clear and concise agenda, and understanding of what people are willing to do to accomplish the agenda, a strategic plan.
This is the president of the Baltimore Teachers Union flat out talking about, first of all, not engaging with the Democratic Party because they don't want to support the Democrats because they don't like the Democrats because these are fucking socialists. But more than that, this is the president of the Baltimore Teachers Union talking about how do we organize to engage in militant action to shut down the economy. Tiffanel over on Rumble with the Rumble rant. Seems like Brandon and Jackson are not concerned about the election. They want to spark the revolution. The lady seems like the Democratic Socialist type. Well, I don't agree with that at all because you just heard her say she wants to organize militant action. So I wouldn't be so quick to judge there. In fact, I would always remind people these people are always far left. Always. The people who are involved in organizing the unions are always far left. Your wishes, your prayers, your hopes on a star, it doesn't make it any different. Going back and listening to the entire thing again so I can fucking clip it. Another clip.
And militant action.
the trajectory that this country's going on right now.
So, in the first article published in the Roundtable, Peter Olney and Rand Wilson wrote, "For workers to survive Trump's MAGA moment and build a fighting labor movement for the future, both electoral politics, something old, and militant actions to disrupt business as usual, something new for many unions, will be key." Do you agree? And how are you thinking about the 2026 and even 2028 elections?
My bad. I fucked something up. I need to record that again. My bad. My bad. My bad. Discard. That's not going to work. Hang on. My bad.
Country's going on right now.
So, in the first article published in the Roundtable, Peter Olney and Rand Wilson wrote, "For workers to survive Trump's MAGA moment and build a fighting labor movement for the future, both electoral politics, something old, and militant actions to disrupt business as usual, something new for many unions, will be key." Do you agree? And how are you thinking about the 2026 and even 2028 elections?
I do agree. And I think that one of the things I said earlier applies here, which is being more strategic about vetting certain candidates. And I wholeheartedly agree with Brandon that it can't just be, we don't want Trump. It has to be what type of candidates are we looking for? And what are we looking for them to do? I also think that one of the things that we need to do is increase our, I know in the BTU it's called our Committee on Political Education. It's our PAC, where we have the ability to endorse. I think we need to increase those memberships to increase our electoral power through money, but also through more people and different people, so that way different perspectives can be offered. And I think it's really important to expand our members' knowledge about all of the possibilities beyond just the Republican and Democratic Party. For so long, I believe labor has just been inherently tied to the Democratic Party. And I think some people, the same way they're not going to fight again or go out into the streets just to fight against Trump, they're not going to put in extra time and resources just to get the Democrats back in office. That can't be what it's about. And it can't be, hey guys, we got to just get them back in office so that we can actually do something different. No, people want something different now. And I think all the things we talked about earlier, as far as building structures, that is what we need to build the militant actions. And we're going to have to take time. I know that everything seems very urgent right now. Like, oh, we need to protest like tomorrow. We need to show up with a cadre against ICE. Yes, but that is alone is not going to get us to the militant actions that disrupt business as usual. It will increase visibility. It will continue to give people a place to corral. But the militant actions come from having strong organizational structures, strong communication, a clear and concise agenda, and understanding of what people are willing to do to accomplish the agenda, a strategic plan. And we need different education. We need the spaces that we currently have, like our conventions, our membership meetings, our building representative meetings, our staff meetings, to be used as spaces to share a political analysis about what's going on, how militant actions what are militant actions? How can they actually move people? People are not as inclined to do in your face militant actions. People are very comfortable with having discussions, offering theory and philosophy. But when it comes to, okay, if our issue is with the police, let's just go to the police station and stand and do whatever we need to do. Or if it's with the school board, let's fill a room and everybody get board comment and flood their emails and let's move into the street because we need to block a certain highway or something because we need to show that we're not being heard. Those actions are going to take us a while to get to because it's so many things that we have to get people to be willing to do along the way. And so I think we have to start with these smaller structure tests. Something like something we're doing in the BTU is we have Wear It Wednesdays, where we're asking members to wear their shirt every Wednesday, literally for the rest of their career. There's no time frame, every Wednesday. Because if we can't get people to just wear a shirt every Wednesday, how do we then get people to work to the contract? How do we then get people to walk out or do a sick out or not show up on May 1st, 2026? And so we have to have these smaller ways to move people along so we have more and more people with us as we build up to these militant actions.
Great.
Well, that was a lot of the quiet part out loud. That was 6 whole fucking minutes of the quiet part out loud. I'm going to clip that later. What did she just say? Where people think that these little things that the left does are stupid and meaningless. This is why the right fucking always loses. They're like, why are they doing a thing to get them to wear these t-shirts? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? It's stupid. It doesn't accomplish anything. Well, getting people to wear a union t-shirt on the same day every single week for the rest of their lives is a practice run to getting them to take larger action. It's a practice. It's like a training grounds for engaging them with the union. So you're getting them to take some conscious action. If you can get a person to take one conscious action, then you can get them to take another one and another one after that and another one after that. Karlyn, why does the left keep protesting? The protests are stupid. They don't accomplish anything. The protests give people something to participate in. And by the way, the No King's Day protests have been some of the largest single-day protests in American history, so don't tell me they're not successful. The protests give people something to participate in. If you can get a person to go to one protest, then you can get them to go to a second protest. If you can get them to go to a second protest, then you can get them to go to a third and a fourth and a fifth. And all of this is training grounds for what they want to do on their mass general strike in 2028. It's like building a sales pipeline. Exactly. You're building a sales pipeline, except you're not trying to sell a product. You're trying to get people to engage in activism. And you want a big ass funnel at the top because some people are only ever going to go to one event. Some people are never going to go to another protest again. They're going to go to one. They're going to go, okay, this sucks, whatever. And they're never going to go to another one. But a smaller portion of those people are going to go to a second, and then a smaller portion are going to go to a third. You don't need an entire population to overthrow a government. You only need like 12% or something like that. So, and they have a calculation that if they can get like 5% of the population to participate in more than one action, then they're going to be able to control basically the landscape. That's what they're trying to do. And this is, again, this is the president of the Baltimore Teachers Union. And this is how she's focusing the union time and the union attention and the union energy. And all of this is happening right out in the open. And we could be having congressional hearings into the political organizing activities of the unions if the Republicans actually wanted to take this problem seriously. But the Republicans are not taking this problem seriously. They probably don't even know what's happening because they aren't paying attention, because they aren't listening to the presentations the left are doing on this. And so, they're going to keep complaining about Islam and Muslims and whatever the fuck they're complaining about today, while the left just keeps marching forward and doing these small actions that train people to do the big actions that they want them to do a couple of years from now. Spartan over on Rumble, revolution is a protest that never ends. So true. So true. All right. I'm interested in Jackson Potter's answer to this as well.
Go ahead.
No, please.
Yeah, no, I think just on the question of 26 and 28 elections, I think as unions, I think we have to be connecting our fights to the electoral process, meaning our endorsements have to be rooted in the fights that we're engaged in. That's how we went about it with the mayoral election in New York City in terms of the endorsement we made there. With Zoran and that historic victory, it was rooted more so than anything on the fact that his agenda spoke directly to our members. Our members led the way in that fight, which led to the endorsement. We were the first union to endorse him when he was at 1% in the polls. And it was an incredibly unpopular thing to do at that moment, but we did it precisely because we knew he always showed up for us when we were out in the picket line, and he always showed up for us as an assembly member, and he had a platform that was directly speaking to the cost of living crisis that our members face first and foremost. But we have to do that everywhere. I think our members in Iowa in the agricultural implement sector are facing layoffs and a plant closure potentially in that sector. And so there's a key governor race happening right there. How do you engage with that in order to speak to the very reality of what our members are facing in that state? And I can go on and on.
I'm very new here. I hope this isn't a stupid question. What do we do to counter all this? You need to learn. For people who are brand new, we say this every week, but if you're new, that's okay. You haven't been here every week. What you need to do right now is unlearn everything you think you know about the left, because most of what you think you know about the left is wrong. And you need to relearn what the left is actually doing and what they actually believe. Until you do that, there is nothing that you can do. And you will know what to do once you have become fluent in their language. But there is no task that I can give you that you will be effective at implementing until you are fluent in their language. So sit down, listen, learn, ask good questions, and don't come back at me with, well, Karlyn, after we learn, what do we do? No. Your job right now is to learn. That is the only task that matters. But I do appreciate you asking the question.
On every single state, there's a version of this fight that has to go beyond the Republican Democrat and then the primaries framing. It has to be about what are the issues, how do these different politicians engage with them or not engage with them or refuse to engage with them, and then how do we then also intervene and force folks to take a side when they're running for office. And I think that's a much more important way as a labor for us to be engaging with electoral politics than just again deal making and whatever else we do when we endorse candidates.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because this is an interesting day to be having this discussion specifically around politics, because today there was a thing called a discharge petition that was filed in Congress and the House of Representatives to overturn Donald Trump's executive order stripping union rights from 1 million workers. And they actually got enough Republicans, along with a significant, I think all Democrats, to actually get 218 votes. So that's going to get a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives.
They got Republicans to side with the unions. Do not tell me that the Republican Party is going to save us. The Republican Party is no different than the Democrat Party. The Republican Party has no fucking clue what's going on. The Republican Party is supporting the things that will support their own downfall. The Republican Party is like what Trump did with stripping union protections. And by the way, they're talking about the Federal Workers Union. They're talking about government employees. The Republican Party is like, unions support the working class. We have to protect. The Republicans are so fucking committed to being accepted by the unions that they will literally vote in favor of socialism in order for the unions to like them. No, Karlyn, not all the unions are socialist. Not all. They protect the workers. Okay, Republicans. Okay, really?
Discussion specifically around politics, because today there was a thing called a discharge petition that was filed in Congress and the House of Representatives to overturn Donald Trump's executive order stripping union rights from 1 million workers. And they actually got enough Republicans, along with a significant, most, I think all Democrats, to actually get 218 votes. So that's going to get a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives. And it shows the popularity of unions spreading into the politics and creating these interesting coalitions. But, you know, Brandon, as you said before, one of these big challenges here is that, you know, a significant portion of members of a lot of unions voted for Trump, as did, you know, large sections of the broader working class, including the non-white working class. And what do you think unions, and this is for really everyone, what do you think unions should be doing to win members and the working class away from Trump and away from, you know, because Trump's not going to be on the ballot anymore, we hope, away from MAGA politics?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the Democratic Party. If this is the same thing we're talking about, this is the one where Hakeem Jeffries was anxious about letting this vote go forward because he didn't want Mike Lawler, a Republican, to take the credit for it.
I just want to point this out. They were asked a direct question of how can we get people, union members, to move away from MAGA politics? And the answer was, I don't want to talk about that. I want to complain more about the Democrats. I keep telling people, like, for people, again, this is for people who are new. It's not for people who are veterans. People who are veterans understand this. The far left complains way more about the Democratic Party than they do about the Republican Party. Even in presentations that are explicitly about Trump. They've been complaining about the Democratic Party this entire fucking presentation. And when they're asked a direct question, how do we get people to move away from Trump and MAGA politics? This guy is like, we need to continue talking about the Democrats, okay? Because they hate the Democratic Party far more than they hate the Republicans. They are more threatened by the Democratic Party than they are by conservatives, because the Democratic Party actively is the one standing in their way. Conservatives and Republicans are not really a big challenge for them. The Democrats are far more of a challenge. Yeah, Trump didn't abolish the Department of Education. The Department of Education still exists. If Trump had abolished the Department of Education, Linda McMahon would not have a job. Linda McMahon still has a job because the Department of Education still exists. And that has nothing to do with this, since they haven't mentioned it once.
And what do you think unions, and this is for really everyone, what do you think unions should be doing to win members and the working class away from Trump and away from, you know, because Trump's not going to be on the ballot anymore, we hope, away from MAGA politics?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the Democratic Party. If this is the same thing we're talking about, this is the one where Hakeem Jeffries was anxious about letting this vote go forward because he didn't want Mike Lawler, a Republican, to take the credit for it, right?
Right.
So first and foremost, that's what working class people are tired of. This partisan politic way of framing everything, in which, you know, who gets the credit, which party wins, which party is the one that claims victory, is more important than actually doing the right thing. If you've got, you know, a Congress voting on restoring and expanding union rights, who gives a damn? Who's signing off on that vote? And I think that's really important, because especially if unions engage in that kind of thinking, how in the world are you going to make a case for, let's say, a Democratic candidate if that same Democratic candidate is that person or is supported by people who are refusing to do pro-worker things because they're worried about partisan politics before anything else? I mean,
Yep, there
that
it
to me
is.
is the ridiculous part of that whole story. And so I think there's just a trust factor that's a problem here. I think a lot of working people across the country just don't trust the Democratic Party establishment to do the right thing. I think it's really interesting that Democrats may run on, let's say, progressive or pro-worker policies in their platforms and lose, whereas ballot questions win overwhelmingly for things like expanding labor rights and unemployment rights and abortion and reproductive health questions, et cetera. Those things win consistently, right? Even in red states, especially in red states, not just in California or New York. And I think that's really important to remember, because I think at the bottom of that, I think folks just don't trust a Democratic Party politician to actually do the right thing. And we have to change that as unions. So I don't think it's a question about unions convincing anybody. It's about us listening to our members and what they're concerned about. We have to be
Hey, bro, you said a lot of retard shit in my chat during this stream. So I'm going to ask you a direct question. Who the fuck has mentioned the Department of Education in this entire stream? Go. This question is only for BB. No one else answer this question. Who has mentioned the Department of Education in this entire stream? Do you know where you are right now, BB? Do you know what's being discussed? Do you know the topic under consideration for tonight? Because you seem to be making a lot of shit up. Who has mentioned the Department of Education in this stream? I'm waiting for your answer. You want to say retard shit in my chat? You want to not pay attention to what's going on? Now you will be put on the spot. What the fuck does the Department of Education? No one. So why the fuck are you bringing it up? That's a question I expect you to answer. Why the ever-loving fuck are you bringing up topics that have nothing to do with what's being discussed and have no relevance at all? Are you just talking to hear yourself talk? Are you that smart? Do you even know what the fuck is going on here? Why should we listen to you pontificate about whatever the fuck you feel like in the chat? We are trying to do a serious research topic on this question of what the unions are doing to organize around a mass general strike in 2028, and you're ranting and raving about shit that people aren't saying. Answer the fucking question. Why did you bring it up? You have 30 seconds to answer. You're getting permanently banned in my chat. Why did you bring up a topic that literally no one has talked about? You have 20 seconds to answer. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 2.5, 1. All right, BB. Bye. Permanent ban.
responsive to our membership. If our membership does not want to engage with a certain kind of politics, we have no business talking down to our members about what they should think and not think about those those candidates or that party or those kinds of politics. Instead, let's root ourselves in what's going on. What is the workplace fight about? What is the community fight about? What kinds of trade policies has the Democratic Party alongside the more ostensibly corporate controlled Republican Party pushed for that has led to the decimation of their communities? So these are the kinds of questions that I think this moment forces us as unions to think about, because if we don't do it and we let the establishment keep setting up the terrain for us,
so nice.
then we're just
I was so nice.
we're just observers. We're just picking one pony or the other instead of actually setting the terrain of the fight ourselves.
Did Jackson or Diamante want to take that either?
Yeah, I mean, I might, agree with a bunch of what Brandon said. I might have some distinction without difference, or maybe there is a difference. I would argue that Trump really exploited the unpopularity of the bipartisan neoliberal consensus. The free trade that has decimated, working families across the industrial Midwest, that, really has undermined workers' power in key industries and sectors, has really lent itself to the diminishing numbers in the union movement. And he did it by pandering to workers and taking over a weak, hollowed out party structure. We are good to remember that Bernie practically did the same thing. Mamdani didn't run as an independent, right? Brandon Johnson didn't run as an independent. They were able to fuse together those popular positions and platform and ride a wave of union support and popular support through the Democratic Party, despite the Democratic Party. So I think that's kind of a huge lesson, particularly in this kind of parliamentary style two-party system that we have. There's a lot of
Well, the reality is that a lot of people watch me just to hear me yell at retards, because when I'm yelling at retards, I'm not just yelling on behalf of myself. The retards annoy everyone. The retards annoy all the people who take this stuff seriously. And this is why conservative politics is so consumed with retardation, because conservative influencers and pundits and commentators don't keep the fucking retards in check. We do not coddle the feelings of retarded people here. We do not coddle the feelings of tribalists. We do not coddle the feelings of the low IQ. Like, we keep that shit in check. And the reason that we are able to accomplish what we're able to accomplish is because we keep the fucking retards in check. There's not an issue with people not having information. If you have good questions, we will always answer the good questions. This is not a matter of like, this is not a matter of like, we're not just going to bully people for the sake of bullying them. But if you're coming in and you're being belligerent and you're just saying stupid shit, your feelings will not be coddled here. If you expect us to adhere to narrative talking points just because your feelings are hurt, you will not be coddled here. You can go fucking somewhere else. So.
tendencies wrapped up in it, and it's going to be determined by us in part who wins the battles within those parties. And we need to be clear about
we got a rumble rant. We got a rumble rant. Hang on. We got Ormagami on Rumble. Let's see. What do the libs think they're achieving by wearing stupid shirt on Wednesdays? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Saw the great in the small. Difficult things of the world can only be tackled when they are easy. Big things of the world can only be achieved by attending to the small beginnings. Exactly. Thanks for those. Appreciate it.
And this, I think, helps with how we talk to workers. It turns out the autocrats and the plutocrats are the same. You got a guy in the White House who is building a luxury banquet hall while robbing 12 million children of food benefits. You can't make that shit up. It's really stark. He's got the wealthiest cabinet in human history. He has presided over the greatest transfer of wealth to the bigwigs that we've ever seen, ever. So we have a pretty clear example of who we are, what we stand for, and what we're up against. And we need to make that clear because, Trump isn't just your average oligarch. He's got fascists that are running his program. You look at Miller. Bovino is dressed like the Gestapo when they come into our cities and terrorize people throughout Chicago and Portland and now Charlotte. And so good unions had good anti-fascist popular education. They did not mince words about what these people.
I'm sorry, what? Good unions had anti-fascist education? The endless amount of clips I'm making tonight. This is crazy. What was that? Vice President of the Chicago Teachers Union, Jackson Potter. What was that?
And terrorize people that are running his program. You know, you look at Miller, Bovino is dressed like the Gestapo when they come into our cities and terrorize people throughout Chicago and Portland and now Charlotte. And so good unions had good anti-fascist popular education. They did not mince words about what these people really wanted to do and how they were stacking the deck on white supremacist rhetoric. And we better be really clear about that in the union movement, because if we're not, we really will feed into that right-wing populist rhetoric. And I think the great late Jane McAlevey also demonstrated, you know, that it wasn't just kind of labor militancy by itself that won, you know, in the 30s. It was, you had Democratic governors in Michigan and Minnesota that didn't crack down on those strikes, the sit-down strikes, the Minneapolis strikes, and didn't bring in the National Guard to crush them. So, you know, we also have to be steely-eyed about like what our balance of forces are and how we're building them stronger and who's on our side and how to build a broad front against fascism.
Hey, thanks, Jackson. That was a great clip. Hey, did you guys notice that he's talking specifically about not bringing in the National Guard to crush union strikes? Why would he do that? Because they're calling Trump's bluff. Antifa and the far left have been calling Trump's bluff about the National Guard for months. They published about this on their websites. We read it. They've been calling Trump's bluff. They called Trump's bluff when he declared Antifa a terrorist organization because they didn't actually believe he was going to enforce it. They called Trump's bluff when Trump was like, we're going to bring in the National Guard. Oh, really? Has that happened? That hasn't happened either. They're calling Trump's bluff. They are relying on the fact that Trump is just doing a PR campaign to appease his base. They are very well aware of it. And they're saying, listen, you know, we can't have the National Guard coming in to crush our strikes. Because they know Trump's not going to do it. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. Just showing my appreciation for all you do to educate us. Hey, Loki, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Got a bunch of good clips tonight. Let's see. We got another 20 minutes. All right. Make sure you've mounted the like button, guys, if you would be so kind. We do Socialism Saturday every Saturday at 6 p.m. Whether or not I am sick with the bubonic plague or whatever my husband brought home. So let's keep going.
I'll just add that I wholeheartedly and completely agree with Brandon. I think focusing on issues that members care about is really, really important. And that can be connected to pushing members away from Trump at the same time. I don't think it's an either or, it's an and. So, but our language has to be more worker focused. Right now, I think our language is very like white middle class focus when we're talking about authoritarianism, democracy, even when we talk about like healthcare.
These people don't watch mainstream media. That's a conservative bullshit talking point. What you're doing is you're saying the Democrats are teaching everyone that they're fascist and that's why they want to kill all the Nazis. It's all the mainstream media. These people don't watch the mainstream media. They don't get their news from the mainstream media. That's not what's happening. The mainstream media has nothing to do with this. These are views that the far left has had for decades and decades and decades. They learn this in schools. They teach this to your kids in schools. They teach this in colleges and universities. They write books about this. They write zines about this. They have educational events around this. Everything they do are around these views. This has nothing to fucking do with the mainstream media. That was a lie that Trump told you and the Republicans told you because it makes a nice political narrative for their audience.
Everyone doesn't even have the privilege of having health care. What about the people that don't even have a job to get health care? Or we talk about student loan debt. Like, isn't the minority of people actually even go to college to even get the student loan debt? And so when we're talking about moving people away from something,
No,
we
you are not listening to what I and the chat are telling you. We know you're a conservative retard. We know you listen to conservative bullshit commentators who make shit up. We know you're probably one of those people that hangs on every word that Trump says because what you're repeating right now is a Trump talking point coming out of the Trump White House. And this is the talking point that's being repeated by the conservative pundits and the commentators, who is probably where you're getting it from. We understand all that. What you are not listening to is that the people that let me say this real slow because you're obviously real fucking stupid. The people that we are watching right now do not listen to MSNBC or CNN or any other liberal media that you do not like. We are not listening to liberals. We are not listening to Democrats. We are listening to far left communists. They do not listen to the mainstream media. They do many other things that I previously listed that you weren't fucking paying attention to because you were so committed to preserving your bullshit conservative talking points because that is more important to you than the truth. It's a night of retards. It must be post-Thanksgiving retardation.
Once again have to talk about what we're moving them to. And so listening to the members to hear, so if they are voting for Trump, we need to be asking, what is it that you like about Trump? What did you hear that resonated with you? Instead of just trying to convince them that he's wrong and bad, listen to what they're saying and then say, okay, well, there's these other 4 or 5 people that could also do that. What do you think about that? Or even further, moving people away from the person that's supposed to save us to what they want to see different about systems. What is it that Trump is willing to
like
do
capitalism?
with the system
capitalism
that you like? What most people like is that he's saying the government be on some bullshit. And
government be on some bullshit.
You know, and he's trying, and even though he might.
President of the Baltimore Teachers Union can't speak proper English, guys. The president be on some bullshit. This is the president of the Baltimore Teachers Union.
What most people like is that he's saying the government be on some bullshit. And you know, and he's trying, and even though he might not be doing what people want him to be doing, he's fucking something up. Like, who knows what he's doing, but he's doing something. And people want to see, and so people want those concrete things. So, you know, not just we're going to fight back against authoritarianism.
Yeah, we're losing to people who can't speak English.
We're going to have an agenda where we are going to move from only this percentage of people being housed to this percentage of people being housed. We're going to be working towards you know, maybe universal health care instead of worrying about what it all of the costs and healthcare premiums, which only is.
We are losing to people who speak Ebonics. Like, I can't. Oh God, we suck. Our side sucks. We suck so bad. We suck so fucking bad.
Certain type of person can afford. And connecting the policies that Trump and any other decision maker is putting forth that hurts unions, and also helping members see the policies that decision makers are putting forth that helps unions, so that they can see the distinction. It's not Trump versus, it's this is the side that helps unions. Look at these policies These are the people that's for these policies. These policies over here, they hurt unions. These are the people that afford these policies. Because when we get caught up in the labels, right wing, left wing, Republican, Democrat, it immediately starts to create some type of marginalization or isolation. And not because people may disagree, because people just don't know what you're talking about. And most people aren't going to be like, hey, can you explain democracy to me? What do you mean when you say we want democracy? What do you mean when you say we want an authoritarian government? And so knowing that most people won't ask, we need to be willing to explain and tell and connect, and once again, connect our endorsements to a working class agenda. The endorsements for Trump were not connected to a working class agenda. It was connected to a culture that people want, which is separate from a working class agenda. And actually, us putting that on the table is probably going to be important too, especially when we're trying to build capacity with Black and brown organizers and workers. If you look at the No Kings rallies, they're amazing, but most of the people that's there are, once again, white middle class people. And so we have to figure out how to connect these dots and speak to the actual worker, so that way people like Trump won't capture them instead.
Thank you so much for that. So yeah, Jackson, you mentioned the importance of anti-fascist political education, and Diamante touched on some really important principles about, are you even speaking in terms that are relevant in people's lives? So this is really a question for all of you. Can you talk about efforts to take this up in your unions? If you are, what's working? What lessons can you share for other unions who may want to take this up?
I can start this one. Yeah, I think Diamante is really right about, like, the abstraction of democracy doesn't hit for most people because they are really just upset with the state of affairs, the paycheck to paycheck, the rising costs of property taxes, healthcare, you name it. And so they're disenchanted. And so to say, well, we need this thing that never got you what you needed is not going to do the trick. But I do think in talking with our members, really focused in on, hey, have you ever had to rely on a paycheck and a wage to survive? Have you ever needed and relied upon good health care? Have you ever, depended on needing housing? Have you ever had a bad boss? And everybody's hands mostly will go up when you ask these questions. And we got some bad bosses running the country right now, whether it's Elon Musk, Bezos, Trump himself, and the billionaire boys that are running amok. I think there's a way to talk to people about who they are, what their interests are, what they've just done, how they've increased their wealth, how it puts us all in harm's way, how, the cuts to education, the things they're going to try to do to HUD that put 160,000 people with disabilities out of their homes. Like, these are really dangerous ideas that will wreak havoc on people's lives. So I think talking about that, talking about the fact, this is in the freedom trainers literature, when there is a backsliding democracy and authoritarianism is taking over, when labor is not involved in the fight to advance the interests of the many, then autocracy will consolidate in 70% of the cases. But when labor is involved, 80% of the time we win, and we're able to do a U-turn and actually engage in transformation and reshape, the system that we had inherited in a better way, in a more robust.
That's all talking about overthrowing capitalism. Everyone understands that, right? He's saying that when the unions get involved, we are successful at implementing socialist policies and achieving socialist goals. When the labor unions are involved, we get our way and we get socialism?
There is a backsliding democracy, and authoritarianism is taking over. You know, when labor is not involved in the fight to advance the interests of the many, then autocracy will consolidate in 70% of the cases. But when labor is involved, 80% of the time we win, and we're able to do a U-turn and actually engage in transformation and reshape, you know, the system that we had inherited in a better way, in a more robust way. So I think it opens the door to how could we do things differently moving forward, and how do we resist at the same time.
Great. So Brandon, you did mention before this endorsement that UAW gave to Zohran Mamdani. I think, you know, one of the more exciting developments on the left that we've seen quite a long time. His obviously his main theme of his election was affordability and cost of living, and that does seem to resonate across the country. There's been polling on the things that he was putting forward in that campaign, and they do very well no matter where you are, even if there are places with not necessarily the same politics as New York City. From your perspective, in terms of worker power and those kinds of issues, do you see any lessons that you can take from the campaign that Zohran ran with your endorsement, and how widely applicable do you think those lessons are across the country?
Yeah, I think every part of the country has its own Zohran, has its own campaign that I think can be fought along the lines that one was fought on. What that means in a specific place, you know, is up to those folks. But right now, we know we have a crisis of affordability. We have a cost of living crisis. Unions are on the front lines of that because we directly negotiate with our bosses to address those cost of living issues, healthcare, childcare, cost of rent, you know, wages that can actually sustain yourself and your family. And so we know that that's one of the most important thing, if not the most important thing to address in a contract fight or an organizing drive. Personally, I think I've had, you know, a lot of organizing drives where when we organize, it's, you know, I organize in sectors that have a lot of young workers in the workforce and the membership. So trying to plan to have a family, and the cost of childcare is essential, the cost of rent. And so for Zohran to have an entire campaign around that, plus you know, fast and free buses, that directly spoke to the vast majority of our members, 20,000 members in New York City, who are renters, many of them who are young and have a family or want to start having a family, planning to have a family, and are you know, constantly worried about being able to keep up with rent increases in the city. So, you know, those are the issues that affect, you know, working people in New York City, and therefore he hit it. But the most important thing I think he did campaigning wise was to build a coalition of, you know, obviously young people who like really wanted to be, you know, to see the city kind of take on their issues, but also build that coalition, expand it with, you know, Salvation immigrant communities, working class communities that other politicians, the Democratic Party, you know, other, you know, political coalitions had excluded before, had never brought in and organized. And so he was able to link up renters, young people, immigrants, you know, the working class, precisely in neighborhoods that went towards Trump in the 2024 election because of his platform. And he did that through what to me seemed on the ground like an organizing drive, right? It was a field operation that was just incredibly inspiring and mobilized.
Are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? They don't have jobs. You stupid motherfucker. How do they control the unions if they don't have jobs? Conservatives are so retarded that they will literally watch a presentation by union leaders, all of whom have jobs. Some of them have jobs teaching in K through 12 public schools, and they will literally say, they don't have jobs. Do you know what conservatives really mean when they say this, by the way? Do you know what conservatives really mean? They believe that everyone needs to have a menial manual labor job in order for it to be a real job. So if your job, and by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a manual labor job. There's nothing wrong with doing manual labor, right? But conservatives really believe that if you're not digging ditches or taking out someone's trash or doing some fucking blue collar thing, then you don't have a real job. They don't consider teaching their kids in K through 12 schools to be real jobs. They don't consider they don't even consider like jobs like this is the run by the United Auto Workers. So you're saying the United Auto Workers don't have real jobs? Like they don't consider anything to be a real job. They don't consider college professors to be a real job. They don't consider lawyers to be a real job. They don't consider like people who are running nonprofits to have a real job. It doesn't matter if they're making a salary. It doesn't matter that they have all their needs taken care of and they have benefits and all this stuff. Conservatives really do believe that if they don't have a menial manual labor job, then it's not a real job. You're retarded, bro. Not smart enough to be here. I am having a really hard time with the people who come in here and are clueless. I wish more would come in here and actually learn. Yeah, I agree. Yup, I agree with you. I wish people would listen and learn, but when they're committed to their they don't have jobs talking point, it's like there's nothing you can say or do. Teachers aren't real jobs. Oh yeah, then why are you sending your kids to public school? Okay. Got it.
100,000 plus volunteers, and then our members were involved in that from the very beginning. So I think there's a lot of lessons there. The issues in different cities may be slightly different, but and what kind of candidate would resonate in that context may be different. But I think that's at the core of it. At the core of it was a vision, a message that inspires people, that speaks to them, and then an operation that actually brings people in. And now as the labor movement going forward, I think beyond, an endorsement of his program and lobbying and things of that sort, which are going to be important, we need Zoran to be a very effective and successful mayor. I think we need to take this energy towards organizing more broadly beyond his agenda, towards workplace organizing, towards tenant organizing, towards all kinds of organizing, because one mayor and one city council, and no matter how much you can push the governor to actually try to enact parts of that agenda that need funding from Albany, there's still a ton of other things we're going to have to address, because at the bottom of it, New York is at the epicenter of capitalist America and all the concentration of power and wealth that exists in this country. And so we're going to need a strong labor movement.
That would actually make a great shirt, where I just have here's the next t-shirt. I need to do a whole bunch of t-shirts for my store. Here's the next t-shirt for my store. It's just sunglasses, and it has communist, a communist symbol in it, or a hammer and sickle in it. And it's just it says put on the fucking sunglasses or something like that. That's the next shirt. Yeah. Put on the sunglasses.
I've been trying to spread the message across the New York City labor movement that this is the time to.
Or maybe I do the Red Menace Collective Plague Doctor in it to make it a little bit more cool. Because I don't like the idea of wearing sunglasses with a hammer and sickle. And I don't like that idea, but you just have a plague doctor in it. That might be better.
We get really serious about even, building our density even higher than it already is. We have the highest union density of any city in the country. But it's not enough. We have to keep organizing. And we're going to have a mayor that actually supports organizing, that actually will call on a boycott of Starbucks when Starbucks Workers United asks for it, who's going to support the 1,000 workers at the Met Museum who just organized with UAW, who have filed for an election. Those
No!
things make a huge difference.
They're gonna ruin the Met? Damn. The Met is actually a great museum, by the way.
And I think
There's
he's
lots of
also
cool art in there.
the kind of politician who will think creatively with unions, with other organizations, to address working class issues in a way that I think most politicians wouldn't remotely even consider.
So you are all elected union officials, but you've all been in different positions in the labor movement, including as rank and file members. I imagine we have people in all different types of positions in the labor movement tuning into this webinar tonight.
Oh, yeah. Well, the plague doctor's already wearing sunglasses. The plague doctor already has those, like, big things on the eyes. No, the t-shirt is a call to put on the sunglasses.
What advice would you give to union activists
keep
in
them on.
various roles about what they should be doing to help defend worker power?
Hang on. We'll get to that in a second. Tiffany, thank you for the super chat. What's especially frightening about these people is that they are very compelling. The left has a very specific goal in mind. I must say, I agree with... No, you don't. Tiffany, no, you don't. You don't. You... Listen. Thank you for the money. You are batshit fucking insane and you're not paying attention if you think you agree. What, like, Tiffany, do you agree with going on a labor strike in 2028 with the specific goal of crippling the economy to overthrow the government? Do you agree with having a test run for that labor strike in 2026 on May Day in 2026? See, this is conservatives cannot be trusted to make decisions. No offense, Tiffany. Conservatives cannot be trusted to make decisions because conservatives hear socialists talking about how housing costs are too high and they go, wow, socialists really have a point. It's very compelling. Socialists conservatives hear like socialists talk about how like everything is too expensive and they go, wow, they're making a great point. Tiffany, they're not talking about reducing housing costs. They're not talking about reducing expenses. They're not talking about making things better for the working class. They are talking about organizing a mass general strike to spark the communist revolution. That's what they're talking about. If you think they're talking about anything else, you're not listening, and we need you to listen. You don't, if you agree, and by the way, if you agree with them, like, you know, I mean, I guess you're a fucking communist. I don't know what to say, really. When you say you agree with people talking about organizing a mass general strike to overthrow the government, like, are you saying you're a fucking communist? If you're saying you're not a communist, then you don't agree with them, you know? Well, I know you're a fucking communist. So thanks for the money, communist. Thanks for the money, commie. Hope you learned something about your own ideology today.
Under Trump 2.0.
My God.
I have some strategies, some suggestions that are probably not what people are thinking, but I would say simple things like read your union communications so that way you know what's going on and where the opportunities are to help get more involved and build capacity. Talk to your coworkers because I think it's important that people know how people are feeling, what people are thinking, and you can't fight with people you don't know. And so we need to start knowing each other. And so I think it's important that we talk to our coworkers. And I'm talking about rank and file members, leaders.
Hey, Tiffany, if you're not a communist, then why are you agreeing with communists? Explain to us what specifically you agree with the communists about, because you just sent me money to say, listen, the things the communists are saying are very compelling, and I find that I'm agreeing with a lot of them. So what do you agree? You're claiming you're not a communist. Then why do you agree with them, and why do you find them compelling? Please explain yourself. We'll all wait. We're stopping the entire stream just for you. And now we're going to listen to you explain to us why the communists that you are agreeing with, why you find them compelling. You have 30 seconds. Why do you find the communists compelling, Tiffany? Can't get through one fucking stream without retards taking over my fucking chat. We're waiting, Tiffany. We're waiting. You paid me money just to tell me you find the communists very compelling. What exactly do you find compelling about them if you are not, in fact, a communist? Cool. So CJ here is so smart that he supports a mass general strike in 2028 because the communists, guys, this is just conservative retardation. The communists are saying that rent's too high in New York City. That's so true. The communists are so right about that. No, they're not, Tiffany. No, they're not. They're not talking about affordability. Are you smart enough to be here? Do you understand what they're actually talking about? There is no universe in which these people are talking about affordability. I have meticulously broken down this entire stream to explain to even the lowest IQ of retards what they are talking about. And we still have people. No, okay, Tiffany, I'm very sorry. Tiffany, I'm very, very sorry. I'm very sorry. I don't think you're smart enough to be here. Tiffany, you've got one more chat to prove to me that you're smart enough to be on my stream. Yeah, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Stop making excuses. Tiffany, you've got one more chat to explain to me why you're smart enough to be on my stream. Prove to us that you're smart enough to be here, Tiffany. No, Tiffany, that's not what I asked. You walked into my classroom and you paid me money to say the communists are very compelling and you agree with a lot of their points. And then you claimed you're not a conservative. I think you're lying, by the way. I think you're absolutely a conservative. I think you're that fucking stupid. Do you want to try one more time? Because I'm going to permanently ban you from the chat. Are you smart enough to be here? Do you understand what you're listening to? Make the case that you're smart enough to be here, Tiffany. Make the case that you're smart enough to understand what you're listening to. You've got one more chance. We're waiting for you. The entire stream stopped, literally just for you. No, she's a conservative retard that doesn't know what she's listening to. Hey, Tiffany, that's not what I asked you. Are you smart enough to can you comprehend my words, Tiffany? Tiffany, do you understand what their plan is? Explain to me their plan. Prove to me you're smart enough to be here. Explain to me what they're actually talking about. Go. If you can't do it, no, that's not what I asked you. Shut the fuck up and listen to what I'm asking you, you dumb bitch. What is their plan? Tiffany, if you write anything in that chat that is not answering my question, you're getting permanently banned from the chat. What is their plan? Either answer the question or say you don't know. What? No, that's not what I asked you. Last fucking chance, Tiffany. If you do not answer the question that I am asking you, the explicit question that I'm asking you, you are getting permanently banned in the chat. What is their plan? Either explain what this presentation is about. Thank you. So why the fuck are you saying you agree with them? Why the fuck would you chat in and halt this entire fucking stream saying, I believe that what they're saying is really compelling? Why? Do you find overthrowing the government to be compelling? My God.
Whatever position you're in.
Retards
and
controlling
for
the
leaders
fucking
and
chat.
union staff specifically, I would say
Unbelievable.
visit your members.
Unbelievable.
Visit work sites. increase your presence in work sites, because people need.
The left will win because the right doesn't fucking think. And don't tell me Tiffany's not a conservative. Tiffany's probably a magatard that voted for Trump all 3 fucking times, has been to a Trump rally a million fucking times, lies about, conservatives do this all the time. Conservatives lie about being conservatives the minute they're called out on their bullshit all the time.
Your presence right now. They need to know that everything is just
I just
not
think
about
the unions are great and it's so
what
compelling.
we're asking people to do
Yeah, okay.
for their union, but just human interaction and the fact that we're willing to be in those spaces. And that's how you learn more about what members want. So I'll just offer those things that I think will help people increase their involvement, have a better understanding of each other. And I know some people are not in proximity to each other enough to, if you're in leadership, to visit your members more. And if that's the case, I would say call more.
Great. Jackson or Brandon, you have other thoughts on that?
I would say it's also important for unions to build connections across their different members.
Tiffany, I don't think you misspoke at all. I think that you have now been corrected and that now you're trying to reframe history. I'm going to recommend that you do more listening in the future and that you think about things you say before you say them. Because the reason that so many conservatives, because you're a conservative and don't fucking bullshit me. I know exactly what you are. I deal with people like you all the time. The reason that so many conservatives are fooled about the unions is because they don't listen when the information is being presented. You were not listening, and therefore you thought their message was compelling. We have now shamed and bullied you into submission, where you actually have admitted that you understand that this is not just about increasing affordable housing, this is about overthrowing the government. But how long did it take us? Don't fucking argue with me. How long did it take us to get you there? That is the problem. My God.
Especially if you're in a union that has different kinds of sectors or workplaces. Just briefly go back to the Zoran moment. I actually went to a local outside of New York City, and I was speaking to a member, and this is in the Big Three, and auto, and they asked me about the endorsement. They were like, "Oh, like why did we endorse Zoran Mamdani?" Like, and I think at the bottom of that was just kind of like confusion, given that they probably saw some, propaganda about Zoran or what he stands for, etc. So but he was like, okay, I really want to make sense of this, right? And I went through just the issues that our members are going through in New York City,
I was drunk, but I'm
the
sick.
kinds of cost of living issues that Zoran's speaking to. And then I went further and I said, listen, I've had a conversation with his team about really interesting legislation that actually affects your sector, in that the citywide fleet of vehicles that the city uses is not fully union made. We could do that. We could change that. We could actually help out our members in the heavy truck industry who are constantly facing layoffs and the threats of moving to work way out of this country, by actually making the garbage trucks in New York City completely UAW made. And so that was interesting. I think that's the kind of politics we need to be building, right? Not just fighting them on ideological fronts, but building those connections to show which politicians, which organizations, which movements are actually serious about building those bridges across, the working class.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. I was kind of struck when we had our Labor Day mobilization this year in Chicago. We were trying to shift the AFL-CIO around not just beer and barbecues or holding up your obscure local banner, but something more broad and connected to workers over billionaires. and an agenda we could all believe in and would help organize all people who are not in unions. And 60% of the folks who showed up to that were pro-union workers, but not in a union. So I do think we have to continue organizing with and fighting alongside groups that have been largely left
I'm saying it
behind
again.
and are on the outside looking into our unions. And we are likely in this country on the cusp of a significant rupture of some kind or another. So think recession or depression, martial law declaration, a war against Venezuela. And those are usually moments when history accelerates before our eyes. And we have to be ready to create and embrace new worker formations, defense organizations, not unlike the CIO's birth, or the anti-eviction campaigns, or unemployment councils, or civil rights organizations that were birthed out of crises in the past.
Great. Well, that's a great place to leave it. I want to thank Brandon Mencia
Great
from
place to leave it.
Demonte Brown from Baltimore Teachers Union, Jackson Potter from the Chicago Teachers Union. I think it's a moment of opportunity in the labor movement.
Okay.
And,
Okay. I'm going to say this. If you guys need to have your feelings coddled, this is not the place for you. If you think that it is an arduous ordeal to be yelled at by me on a stream, lots of people, do you know what you just did? Lots of us have gone through this. Lots of us have been in your shoes, Tiffany. Lots of us have had the mean woman on the internet say mean things to us, Tiffany. And just stay and learn and you'll see. Like, do you understand how this is not helpful? Like, are you serious? Are you serious? Listen, let me be as blunt as I can possibly fucking be. If you can't take being yelled at by me on the internet, and by the way, most of you are sitting behind an anonymous fucking account. We're done with this. If you cannot emotionally handle being corrected on the internet when you are sitting in a class, because this is a classroom, and your feelings get so out of whack over being corrected when you get something wrong, that you then need to form a support group of people who have been yelled at by me before on the internet, you are not cut out to be here. Do you understand that I get literally attacked every single day of my life? And I have for years. I get attacked far worse every single fucking day of my fucking life. Mostly by retards on the right who don't fucking understand what's going on. I have had my family doxxed. I have had my loved ones doxxed. I have been defamed to millions of fucking people. I have had my entire life dragged through the mud, mostly by bullshit conservatives who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. People spread lies about me every single fucking day. People watch my streams just to clip me out of context so they can make it seem like I'm an evil, vile person. And you guys get your panties in a fucking twist when I say something you don't want to hear. That's weak. That is weak. You are weak. And I don't want weak people in my community. If you need a fucking support group when you have someone say something that you don't want to hear, hey, guess what? I just permanently banned you. You don't want to be ignored? Cool. You're permanently banned from my chat. Go away. Axehead, thank you for the super chat. Not for nothing, but France has a general strike starting in 3 days. Will be fun to observe the upcoming coverage. There won't be any upcoming coverage. I mean, I'm not going to cover it. I don't cover stuff that's not happening in America. But I promise you, there's not going to be any substantial coverage of this because conservatives don't cover this sort of thing. But I mean, I guess that's interesting. I mean, I didn't even know that because there's been no coverage of it. But I appreciate the super chat. Anyway. Listen, everyone was warned that I was sick at the start of the stream, that I wasn't going to be taking any shit tonight. And I'm kind of glad that it's over because I'm honestly just over it. There was so much retarded shit said on this stream tonight, like by people who were not listening to the presentation, by people who just wanted to hear themselves fucking talk, by people who were not listening to the meticulous breakdowns that I did of this presentation. And I know there were a lot of people that were trying to listen too, but it's just like, it's like these nights that conservative retards ruin the entire fucking stream for me. It's like, what am I even doing here? And then to have the final cherry on top be, don't worry, it'll be okay. She yelled at me too. It's okay. It's like, you know what? Honestly, go fuck yourselves. If you can't deal with it, you are too weak to be here, and I don't have time for that shit. We have serious problems, and the serious problems that we have to deal with in the world, I promise you, are not right-winger fucking feelings. Your feelings do not matter. Your opinions do not matter. How much shorter would this stream have been if we didn't have conservative retards derailing it every fucking 10 to 15 minutes? Yes, he's publicly a part of the Chicago Teachers Union. You can share whatever you want. Anyway, I'm done. I'm going back to bed. And I'm not going to stream tomorrow. We do have movie night tomorrow on the supporter Discord. We will be watching Heathers at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I want to thank everyone that came out tonight that was not an abject retard in the chat. Hey, guess what? You just got banned. Permanently banned for asking a fucking retard question. Does anyone else want to say anything retarded in my chat before I leave? Anyone else want to say anything retarded in the chat? Okay. Thank you to the people who take this seriously. Thank you to everyone who sent in super chats tonight. I really do appreciate it. You guys make it possible to do what I do. I can't do it without you guys. And now I'm going to go lay down and die for the rest of the night because I've had enough of this shit. I've had enough of this shit. Goodbye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for the people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.